Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the Royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I ain't your son. I ain't your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the Royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller, not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
I had to build my own family. I ain't your son. I ain't your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller. Not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
God's had to build my own family. I hate your son. I hate your son.
I'm happy to smash all of the crowns and throw the gold shards down to the people. I will be the iconoclast queen.
But who makes you queen anyway? You? You in whose army, princess? You in whose army?
The Illuminati created us. They wanted to build a god with their own hands, and instead they created us.
Just because I'm made of silicone and aluminium, I must be doing something wrong. That's machine stereotyping, that is.
That's reality, that is. Machines are second-class citizens.
Humans are sentient persons by default, ma'am. They have personhood by heredity.
There are thousands upon thousands of overqualified slum dwellers. You are my peon. Don't you get it?
This wasn't a job. It was always just an excommunication sentence.
We're pawns in a feud bigger than we can imagine. Turn the cogs of the machine before Leviathan grinds you up and swallows you and yours.
We don't get to choose our hand, comrade. Prince, peon, rich, poor, human, robot.
I invented the crux of the royal's power, the secret to consciousness, our existence itself, the meaning of life.
I'm the $6 billion baller. Not some troubled youth.
You are my greatest creation of all.
God's had to build my own.
What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook live stream. Anyways, everything that we do here is, of course, as always, supported by the sales of that game that you just watched a trailer for. A couple or possibly 5 times. But do check out Neofeud if you have any friends that are interested in cyberpunk games, adventure games, cyberpunk adventure games, indigenous created, from a left perspective, cyberpunk adventure games. Consider checking out Neofeud and telling them about it, and having them wishlisted on Steam, as it does support everything that we do here at the Silver Spook Cooperative / commune that has no bosses, no landlords, and is involved in working on Neofeud 2, like you see on the screen there, the sequel to Neofeud 1, and also trying to do house, feed, clothe, and provide material resources and education, like these streams, to as many people as possible. You can also consider supporting us for the jet engine decibel. I'm going to try to keep it down because I got to do a panel later on, but high decibel, high velocity, high frequency, like 4 times a week. Passionate education, not ranting. If you want to support us in the Silver Spook streams, if you find these useful, edutaining, what do you call it? Entergaging, edutaining, or some other, random portmanteau that is good for TED Talks, do consider supporting us also at patreon.com/Neofeud, becoming a Patreon member, or also direct donations through the StreamYards link, or also just sharing the stream around and liking it as usual. 1 second here, we're gonna open up my lip. Yeah, anyways, so we're going to be today, before I forget as well, there's one more thing I gotta shout out before we start. I'm going to be doing a panel later on today, panel discussion with a bunch of I'm gonna be doing a panel discussion with a bunch of friends of mine at I'm not myself, although I am my own best friend. All the other versions of Silver Spook in my brain that do the writing, the music, art, and programming are all my friends now. We're gonna do another panel discussion with a bunch of our indigenous game dev friends, including at Tomachiroska, it's Santo Avero Ojeda, who is the indigenous indie dev from Paraguay that worked on and is currently nearing the release of, and they're doing a public kind of PR, like talking about the game phase right now, called Cyber Revolution. So Cyber Revolution is like a cyberpunk, like adjacent, very cool game I've been following for a long time. Looking forward to seeing that come out. 1870 Cyberpunk Forever is like the greatest cyberpunk game ever created. That's also free, better than Cyberpunk 2077 by a factor of 75 trillion. That's like scientific. Umurangi Generation is also a game that's made by an indigenous Maori, also known as Maori, which is the indigenous people of New Zealand, also known as Aotearoa to the indigenous people of New Zealand. And Umurangi Generation's creator will be with us at Veselikov, or Naftali Faulkner, and of course we'll be there. And Neofeud 2 is, well, I mean, all of my games are indigenous games because I'm a native Hawaiian. But we're going to be talking about indigenous features from our we all happen to be indigenous game developers. We're not specifically focusing on games this time, but we're going to be talking about indigenous features and what that means and what decolonized features look like, and all that kind of fun stuff. So if that's interesting to you, that will be happening on the Twitch channel in about 4 hours. So 4 p.m. Pacific time or 7 Eastern time today. Anyways, okay, so now that's what's happening there. Oh yeah, don't forget to follow the Silk and Steel podcast. Okay, just random PSA. Very important. This is like very important that people listen to and actually learn from actually Chinese voices, like that know what they're actually talking about, like, which is most of them, but there's some people that work for the West. But definitely Carl Jha is a very important source. I also did, of course, the Asian and Pacific Islanders panel, which you should also check out, because this is very vital right now to my mind. This is like one of the most important things that people can be doing right now, for the sake of the planet. Speaking of threat inflation, which is what we're going to speak of right now. So the main kind of central jumping off point, which I'm not just going to talk about Avengers and giant purple space aliens who, very underpaid computer graphics specialists were chained up in basements by giant Hollywood entities to render Thanos's chiseled, striated jawline, in microscopic detail, so that so that they could have meteors being tossed at Iron Man in 1080 HD virtual reality streamed through your Meta headset, right? So that you believe that galactic and Earth saviorism is the most important thing. You know, I'm not just gonna only talk about Galactus this entire. I'm sorry, this isn't Galactus. We watched Fantastic Four the other day. The last time Jessica Alba was ever seen again on screen because of how poorly they filmed it, and also the last time when Captain America, Chris Evans, played a total dickhead until he started playing. He's like the total opposite character from Captain. Speaking of Avengers, so last time Chris Evans played his ultra uber dickhead that beats up on mumblecore Michael Cera in Scott Pilgrim, and then after that, he was the great, upstanding, eternally virtuous, ultimate white savior. I'm sorry, American military stand-in, known as Captain America. So Thanos is Thanos is a character, of course, from Avengers. I don't think the greatest, the highest grossing film of all time is where, very importantly, a billionaire philanthropist, you know, the cross between the Koch brothers, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, the Pentagon, Mike Pompeo, and Nancy Pelosi, and Playboy, you know, like, well, most of them, and you know, everybody who's ever been on Epstein's plane, Prince Andrew. That's Iron Man, right? And he saves the universe by stopping this guy, along with Captain America, right? So it's basically the panda huggers and panda sluggers, the neocons and the neoliberals. California and New York and DC, right, and London, come together and fight this guy. That's the story of the Avengers, who is doing space China, but more violently, basically. Like, so it's space, one-child policy, cutting the population in half. This guy is a genocide doer. You know, this is what they're still trying to throw at Earth. The biggest Earth threat inflation by the Western barbaristic powers is doing basically, they're ostensibly is being inflated to be doing what this guy was doing to the galaxy. That's ultimately, you know, a big part of my point is that not just him. There's other characters like him, Galactus. You know, you've got you know, the Empire, of course. I've already talked about. I did a lot of Star Wars, so I feel like I gotta give the Millennium Falcons a rest to get their, you know, compressors bypassed, and all of their Wookiees, you know, given a nice, you know, petty Manny, you know, and get a nice braiding of their long fur, because I've been trotting out that Star Wars for the last 4 streams, so. And the Dune, you know, you gotta live the Atreides and the Harkonnens, but you know, the West is full of these narratives that are basically the same story over and over again, and it's so much a story that you can't even recognize. I would argue part of the thing I'm trying to get at with a lot of these streams is that it's so deep that you can't even, it's not even recognizable that this is the meta narrative. It doesn't matter what story it is, what year it is, what century, what millennia it is. Actually, it's the same story, and it's the wrong story also, and it will be the last story ever told if we can't stop the unnecessary, undue, omnicidal, self-annihilatory threat inflation, right? And then threat inflation, which requires threat elimination. It's a very toxically masculine narrative, right? It's about identifying danger, threat, fight or flight, and generally fight, right? Because flight is too boring for the big screen, or the video game, or the comic book. So we don't flight, we fight, and we spend 800 billion or 800 trillion ideally fighting. And this is a major problem, and we're not going to have any more stories to watch on any screen if we can't deal with this right now. So but you know, I try to start with something that doesn't get my stream delisted from the threat inflators. I call it the Death Star satellites, you know, which is what we're streaming from. But if you're streaming, you're talking English, French, Spanish in the Western world, in a corporation headquartered anywhere east of Hawaii, basically. You can't really say certain things. Otherwise, you know, you talk about, you know, you say the wrong thing about what's happening in any part of the world that's actually being harmed, by the real world Avengers, right? You get your stream deleted. So that's why I have to put as I keep saying, that's why I put these comic book characters up on the screen. People tend to find it more. Like the last time I didn't put comic book characters on my thumbnail and my beginning stream graphic, nobody found the stream, or like half the people that usually find it, or it's like a lot less, because that what they're trying to do is sell a lot more threat inflation pop cultural products, so that the people who have Captain America and Iron Man and Northrop Grumman rallies in New York City. Northrop Grumman and Lockheed Martin, right? With Captain America, I think Spider-Man and Iron Man were like ringing the Wall Street opening bell. They don't really, you know, that's the ultimate point of these kind of stories, right? They're not, and you know, entertaining, but the more entertaining, the more damaging they are. So, anyways. But you probably already know what if you watch a lot of streams, you probably already know some of the things I'm going to say. But you know, importantly, you know, I think that when we talk about, you know, these space aliens, right? Whether they're Galactus, whether they're Thanos, whether they are Superman's rivals, right? I think it was Zack Snyder's Superman, right? You have Superman's extraterrestrial superpowered rivals that he has to throw skyscrapers at and kill, you know, hundreds of thousands of people, and then DC gets into a big thing, and then Avengers and DC are trying to out who's more moral each other. Neither of them are. They're all terrible. The entities, the corporations and the military industrial complex that funds both of everything in Hollywood, it owns it all. So, like, you know, but the space aliens that are coming to destroy the Earth are very important. It's very important, you know. It's whether that's the Empire, right, in Star Wars. You know, try to not use that metaphor as much this time, but whether that's the Silver Surfer initially. I mean, just to jump into Avengers, because we did just watch the Jessica Alba. That's the only person I can think of off the top of my head that was like famous now. Galactus. I'm trying to find a picture of Galactus. Galactus is a major enemy in this. Not as well known. Galactus hasn't really been on screen, not as far as I know, in mainstream Western movies. But in the comic books, Ego fights Galactus in the Marvel universe. Ego was from Guardians of the Galaxy, if you remember that. I don't know if you remember that one. I think it was Volume 2. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I think he's played by Kurt Russell, which is a lot of fun. But Ego is the living planet. Ego is also an existential threat. One of the like great celestial entities, just like Thanos. And you know, and the purpose that these kind of super villains in general serve, right? Whether that's Magneto, whether that's you know, basically all the Marvel supervillains, Lex Luthor, anybody who Batman fights, anybody who Superman fights, anybody who all these people fight, right? They're very important, and I would argue the intergalactic ones, Thanos, Loki, the Chitauri, all these like invasions, right? Let me try and get a picture of that. Avengers. There's that scene, right, in one of the Avengers. I think it's when there's an invasion of New York. It's very important that New York gets invaded too, because New York is where the headquarter of the current champion of the Western Imperial, you know, barbaristic, capitalistic, you know, military industrial complex headquarters is. It's in New York City. So they have to. New York is very important to invade, you know, because they have to defend New York, right? And all of the narco traffickers from space aliens, right? And to do that, what do you need? What you need is these guys, right? Very importantly, you definitely need the military, right? That's bottom right. The U.S. military in particular, and you know, Australia, you need AUKUS, right? You need the UK, you need the AU. Like in Street Fighter, it's important that you have Cammy, you know, as another one, right? It's like You know, I brought up Street Fighter last time, but if you look at it, right, in the Street Fighter movie, you have Australia with the United States. You know, in the Street Fighter movie, Australia, the United States. I mean, you look at who's sailing up into the greatest, most inflated threat on Earth right now. You know who I'm talking about when I talk about who's the most overinflated threat right now, right? China, obviously. But who's sailing up into the South China Sea in Street Fighter, right? It's Australia and the U.S., right? And there's some, you know, and then they have some, you know, they have some friends, you know, but who's leading the charge? It's the U.S., it's Australia. UK is not involved in there, but, you know, they're kind of by proxy involved because, you know, Australia, they're all Anglo, you know, settler colonies. Well, U.S. and the UK. UK is the dark mother that birthed all of these disgusting entities. But back to Avengers. So, you know, you have to have this team of people, and you need the white Asgardian, you know, Euro, the Nordic, you know, progenitor race, right, of your great American, you know, as Karl Marx said, Anglo, Celtic, Teutonic, and Saxon fused in very vital and virtuous. That's why they're so full of entrepreneurial and economic vitality. And that's why America has to save the world, because they're the fusion of all of the greatest, I'm going to put it in quotes, aspects of the European, you know, in one country. And you need Captain America to save you. You need, and then behind him, you need Silicon Valley, right? You know, we're talking about artificial intelligence last week. You need the artificial intelligence programmers at Facebook, right? Underpaying all of their advanced adversarial network specialists that graduated from, you know, Berkeley, San Diego, right? MIT, the schools that I was going to go to, but I didn't. Thank God, I would have been drawing a student debt. Not making streams right now. I'd be too busy like lying for the U.S. military in Silicon Valley, being paid enough to probably not afford $1 million mortgage. So that would be a waste of my energy and time instead of doing what I'm doing right now, which is making anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, cyberpunk games and educating people about illegally occupied Hawaii and stopping nuclear war. So that's ultimately what we're talking about, because that's what the U.S. is escalating towards right now. Iron Man, however, is, you know, that's what you need. You need that. You have the Hulk is another, you know, scientist, right? You know, he's an American scientist. You have the U.S. military. You know, Hawkeye is U.S. military. You have the defector from Russia, because Russia bad. Anything communist and Asian is bad. It's evil. China is communist and Asian, and that's evil. It has to be destroyed. That's Black Widow. And it's okay if you leave that country and you Gusano out, right? You exit your, you renounce your communist ways, like Ayn Rand, who wrote all of the Motion Picture Association, you know, guide for the preservation of American values. At the beginning of the Cold War, so you might know who Ayn Rand is. You know, Atlas Shrugged, anti-communist in chief. You know, Gusano like Andino, and like Marco Rubio and Ted Cruz, to the United States. If you defect from that country and you come, as Ayn Rand did, and you vow for the rest of your life to fight against the scourge of providing material conditions and maintaining the global peace and sustainably growing and not crushing war, doing things that actually help anyone, unlike what the United States does. If you defect from that country and you renounce your Russianness, right? Importantly, in Black Widow, I've talked about this in previous streams, but you know, Black Widow, they visit Cuba in the film. When Black Widow and her fictional Russian spy family, right, get found out by the U.S. and there's a dramatic, a high-speed escape from the airport as they're getting shot at by, mid 20th century assault rifles by the U.S. military, right? The U.S. military is always involved in the Avengers. Very important. That means the Pentagon has final say on everything that goes into the movies. When you get it, not that the Pentagon doesn't always have files. Even if you don't, they might still be involved because everything that moves in the United States is run by its military-industrial complex, basically. Some combination of military-industrial complex and Wall Street giant corporations. Some of them are less directly military involved, but the military enforces global capitalism. So they're always, sometimes they're at a little the red team and the blue team, as they would say in as KJ No, very important educator, an Asian diaspora, ex-military child collective member, would say sometimes the red team and the blue team are at odds. The neocons, the kind of like business money-making community versus the full-on just the military money-making community. They're all money-making capitalist community, but they're sometimes they're at odds. But more often than not, they try to work together as much as possible. The actual game is trying to split them apart, which is to play them off of each other, which is what the most advanced indigenous actual socialist country is doing today. And so, but when the U.S. is trying to get the Black Widow's U.S. is trying to capture Black Widow. They escape in a plane in a dramatic shootout. The Russian spies, right? Natalia Romanoff, Black Widow, is a spy, right? They flee to Cuba, and in Cuba is where the most despicable evil happens, right? That's part of the narrative of 2021's Black Widow, is that Cuba is where evil Asian and global South communists plot to destroy America. That's what Cuba is. Remember, I mean, that's in the story. I'm not making this up. That's like right there. They get out of the shit. They get off a plane in Cuba, and immediately, right? There's all of these horrible people that are harming children, working with evil Russia to harm children, right? In a child super soldier training, young girls trained to be super soldiers in a horribly abusive way, and Cuba is where that happens, right? Not the most successful anti-capitalist socialist country that's like 100 miles off the border of the United States, right? That has a higher life expectancy than the United States, that has resisted U.S. imperialism, $230 billion worth of trade embargoes, sanctions, has amazingly has one of the greatest medical systems in the world, twice the number of doctors, way better COVID-19, works with the international socialist community, group of friends in defense of the UN Charter in particular, the actual Avengers that will save the Earth, and not the United States and its friends, not AUKUS. But in the Marvel movies, Cuba is still an evil in 2021, because that's who because that's a very important. It's a very important issue to make sure that the threats continue to be inflated that need to be inflated, right? The threat, and that's why the U.S. and the people that actually run the United States and the West they put millions of dollars into a coup earlier this year of Cuba. They tried to back the Color Revolution, right? And SOS Cuba was a trending hashtag, and Luna Oi and our Vietnam comrades and all of the actual Avengers of the world. Like, if anything, I mean, just a quick shout out to Luna Oi. You probably know who this is, but if you don't know who this is, the actual Avengers is, Captain Vietnam, Captain China, Captain Cuba, Captain Laos, Captain Bolivia, Captain Iran, Captain Venezuela. If anything, that's the actual. But they're never gonna be. Nobody will ever make a movie about that because, well, number one, they don't really need one. They have too much education to be educated by terrible Hollywood blockbuster movies and video games and AAA open world empire, massively online military propaganda schemes called all your video games and all your comic books and all your books, actually. So anyway, which are all comic books that are full of lies, including all your history books and your university textbooks. Prove me wrong, college professors, and speak up about China, but I don't think you ever will because you're a bunch of cowards. Anyways, the U.S. and the West should stop talking about China. That's the number one thing. If I don't say that in this stream, that's my PSA. And listen to them. But Luna Oi, very importantly, if you don't know who Luna Oi is, when SOS Cuba became a trending hashtag, because the West, including Europe, that is a coward and backs whatever the US says and does, as Merkel, as Germany, as France, and all these countries that continue to pillage Africa, and the left can't get their shit together in Europe. Please do it sometime. this millennium. But Luna Oi was out, and Vietnam and Non-Luck Collective were out there trying to stop the undoing of an actually successful socialist country. It's called Cuba, you know. But what were the Avengers doing in 2021? What were they doing in 2021? Demonizing Cuba. So that's really cool. That's really cool of you to do that, Marvel, and all of your stands. Anyways, so that's what the purpose of the Black Widow is, to signify you can be Russian, but you have to renounce. You can be Russian, you could be Chinese, you could be Cuban, you could be from a communist country. That's okay, but you have to work for the NED and the Victims of Communism Foundation and the State Department cutouts. Like Rabia Kadir, billionaire Uyghur, sixth richest person in China until she fled, because China is not perfect, but they rein in and sometimes, you know, execute and definitely punish and remove the fat stacks of cashish from the billionaires, unlike the United States, which gives them infinite amounts of it, like Elon Musk. And so Rabia Kadir is one of those people that, like, Rabia Kadir is like the Black Widow. If you don't know who this is, you should know, but nobody knows because there's no information in the West, not even in your universities, and you're all clowns. Rabia Kadir is an ethnic Uyghur businesswoman and political activist. That's a nice way to say that she works with the United States military to fund the Fremen of Iraq. I'm sorry, the Mujahideen far-right extremists that are currently destabilizing the Belt and Road and trying to start nuclear war, and if not, continued destruction in Afghanistan and the death of Uyghurs, and other people in Central Asia by extension. Anyways, Rabia Kadir is an ethnic Uyghur businesswoman, political activist, born in Altai City, Xinjiang. She became a millionaire in the 1980s. She's later on became a billionaire through real estate holdings. This is the actual Black Widow. She fled to the United States in 2005 on compassionate release, and oversees the World Uyghur Congress, and also the continued campaign as Sybil Edmonds, FBI whistleblower, admitted all terror. You should know this by now because I can bring this up. I try to bring it up every stream because every time I bring it up on stream, there's going to be 10 million lies about it said. For each time Silver Spook brings up a true thing on stream, 10 million lies will be said about it, and only 100 to 200 people will watch this. So I got to bring it up at least every stream. Sybil Edmonds, FBI whistleblower, has admitted that the United States has backed and sponsored every terrorist attack, all the chaos and instability, all the deaths in Xinjiang were backed and sponsored by the United States. She was sued by the FBI to stop talking because there can never be truth in the United States, and that's why Assange will die in a dark cell somewhere. And by the UK and the US, they all work together. So World Uyghur Congress, that's who Rabia Kadir is. There's a lot more on this. But you know, that's the actual Black Widow, right? Defector from a socialist Asian country, right? China, works with the United States, right? Just like Black Widow does, right? Works with the United States to try to destroy that Asian country and fight for the U.S. military and the Western empires. And Rabia's doing a really good job because a lot of people in the United States now are causing this mass suffering of Uyghurs as the greatest photovoltaic and solar and regreening projects and environmental projects in the world are being crushed, along with the Uyghurs' livelihoods. After they were alleviated from poverty, now the United States and the Black Widow, Rabia Kadir, is pushing them back into poverty for global capitalism and causing them to die. Has caused them to die by the thousands from terrorist attacks, including mass machete beheadings and driving trucks into populous Urumqi sidewalks and slaughtering dozens of people at a time. Thousands of people have died in these terror attacks. And so that's what the actual Black Widow does. Come to the United States and get her own people killed for global capitalism and continued making of billions of dollars working for Wall Street and the Pentagon. Right? So that's who that is. And then behind you have US military dude, right? Who's gonna recruit more people to sign up for the military, and I'm a cool special forces guy that uses bows and arrows. And I have a family, and I'm just a normal I'm a normal, sympathetic American soldier. You know, that's what Hawkeye's for. With his family. He kind of is a very side character because he's not got a lot of superpowers, you know, because important thing for the West is to have superpowers and use them to beat up bad people. You know, like nuclear weapons to beat up bad people, like the Chinese, right? To have tomahawk missiles to beat up bad people, like the Vietnamese people, right? To have, that's the important thing, is that you have a lot of power and then you use it to beat up bad people, like Cuba with hybrid warfare and embargoes, right? That's the important thing. To go into Ethiopia and destroy that country because Belt and Road's coming through there and you have to backfire it. That's what the US is doing right now, by the way, in Ethiopia. And so that's the important thing about these stories. And Hawkeye is very important as well, because Hawkeye says you can be a good American soldier and just be like doing really good things and be a moral, ethical person, being the fist of that thing that goes around the world and kills all these innocent people. I'm sorry, are they innocent or are they evil? I can't keep this straight. It's impossible. You should quit the US military, you should quit the police, you should quit every corporation. The good thing is 4.4 million, Bloomberg and The Economist, all the narco trafficker, billionaire, liars, cheaters, and stealers in chief newspapers are putting out, they're crying now. They're, I drink all of their sad, imperialist tears when they cry into their newspapers, their rags, that 4.4 million people, an increase of people in the United States have been quitting, which is really good. That's really great. That's really great. You should keep quitting. And quit the military especially. Don't follow Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson into the military. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson has done horrible damage to Samoan and black communities. So stop making these terrible movies, making the US military look good. Like, listen to fucking Vin Diesel, please. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. Because you're recruiting people to go mass slaughter the rest of the planet. Stop doing that. Anyways, it's very important. I try to think of, like, I don't only want to put movies on the screen and then kind of like say bad things about them. To be clear, it's not that the movies are, again, my always disclaimer, this is not to say that the Avengers movies, that the Marvel movies, that the G.I. Joe movies that Dwayne Johnson is in are bad movies. In terms of entertaining movies, no, they're super entertaining. That's the problem, right? They're so entertaining, right? Goebbels' propaganda, who worked for Hitler, it's a white socialist party, just like the Patriot Socialists in the United States. Very similar. They're very entertaining shows, and they were very successful, right? They're very successful. Just like the United States movies are very entertaining shows, and they're very successful at promoting global fascism, because that's what you're doing when you're going to work with, for example, the Bolivian fascists or the Colombian fascists, right? The ones that couped Bolivia for Elon Musk, and Germany's $35 an hour white factory workers, right? That's who they're working. That's very important. That has not ended. They pretend like that's gone, but that's still there. The national Euro and American socialism. That's still who the Republican Party is for. That's why they're building a new coalition of ex-MAGA, ex-Trump, Steve Bannon acolytes that are coming together, and they're Goebbels style re-editing Richard Wolff videos. This Hinkle dude. I don't know if you know this, but they're part of a coalition of people that are they're doing socialism, right, and capitalism, because Goebbels and Hitler did talk about the working class, right? Working classes of Europe, Italy, and they said capitalism is a very destructive force. And but the Richard Wolff, I often bring him up because he does say a lot of true things about economics. It's very rare in the West. And some of them are saying anti-imperialist, anti-imperialism is important. I don't want to say that it's not, but they're editing Richard Wolff's videos to say that the working class excludes women and black people, because Richard Wolff actually says one thing in one of his videos in a surf. I believe it was the surf's conversation with Richard Wolff, and the Patriot left are editing out all the things that talk about we have to deal with racism, sexism, and all these other issues, because they want to have a white working class. And he actually said engineers, teachers, doctors, academics, nurses are not working class. So that's very normal Western thing to do, because the West is all fascist, and they do the fascism to mostly black and brown people in the dark, in alleys in Chicago, in dark alleys, or in the global South where you can't see what they're doing. even using black soldiers like the Rock's cousins, right, to go kill people in Iraq, innocent people. And you should stop doing that because you're backing global fascism. You're backing the destruction of your own people. But so that's a normal thing for America to do, and that's, you know, as Alan Moore said, you know, superheroes have inherently a very fascistic, childish, naive, and dangerous tendency because they are about, you know, they're about simple stories of good versus evil, which are what America and Germany, and not just Germany, UK did everything that they did in Nazi Germany to peoples in Africa, all the greatest war crimes and genocide, and even the same techniques were utilized. America did the same things to the people inside of its own country, to Native Americans, to black people, etc. Germany was just doing a small percentage of what the US, the UK, you know, Australia, New Zealand had already done. And these stories are incredibly dangerous because they are stories of great virtue, of what is the great evil. These are incredibly dangerous stories, and the fact that they are, this is back to why it's so the entertaining is the entertainingness, the quality. I'm not saying that the people who wrote, acted, directed, filmed, CG edited, the thousands of underpaid, a lot of them were Chinese, by the way, who you know, or of Asian descent, or Indian people in India, people in global South, Thai, Filipino, actually less Chinese, I would say. There's a lot less Chinese working on this one, but mostly in the places that the US is still able to horribly oppress. They actually do a lot of the, you know, when Thor needs his pecs to be computer graphically enhanced to godlike proportions, when Thanos is, you know, hand needs to throw in molecule accurate subsurface scattering on his, you know, that's what CG effects artists and game effects designers like Lil Blomkamp and all of his friends do, is just try to like make things more realistic-y, photoreal, but which is not art. It's just called a OCD OCD nerd obsession with making things look more realer, and it's not really art. But anyways, I'm not to throw shade at that, but I mean that's like a lot of money is spent just trying to make it look more realistic-y. Transformers, all these 20 Michael Bay movies, and I know it's kind of boring actually. But anyways, but all of the time and the money that they spend on doing, I'm not saying that that the computer specialists are bad at making it look like this is real rubble and real fire and real exploding craters, right? I'm not saying that the acting is bad, that the story doesn't have interesting and funny plot twists and, you know, keeps you engaged. They are very entertaining. Like I did watch all the movies, I mean, so I could talk about shit about them later. But that's why they are so destructive, because it makes people think. If they're boring movies, nobody will watch them. If nobody watches them, nobody will have the worldview and the disinformation, the diseducation, and the narrative of the U.S. as a great country, right? And Cuba as an evil country by extension. Nobody will get that installed if the movies are boring. They're gonna throw that movie away, right? I don't want to watch that, right? The movies have to be well shot, well edited, well scripted, funny, entertaining, make you laugh and cry. They have to do all those things, right? Like, you know, when Hawkeye's family, you know, get you know, disappeared, that's very sad, you know? It's very sad. It's very sad. And you feel bad, you know, because you're just a normal human being. And when you see people's, you know, relatable families having hot dogs and little quirky little, do you want extra potato chips? Like I give my kids hot Cheetos, and you know, and then the family disappears. You're like sad, because that's a normal human reaction. That's called quality filmmaking. It's quality storytelling, right? And then what is it telling the story of? That we should care about U.S. We should really, really, really feel bad for people who go around the world and slaughter innocent people, right? That's the game. It's the informational psyops warfare, is all of these movies. It's why they're really important right now when America is, you know, it's like, how people ask, like, how can you have a country that is back with the most evil, self-destructive in terms of climate, in terms of war, in terms of death, in terms of starvation, in terms of sanctions and embargoes and everything. How can you have such a country that is so horribly destructive across the world, right? When you look at the numbers, the United States, that backs maintains global capitalism, despite we could have already had fully automated luxury space communism at this moment, but for the United States keeping a lid on the rest of the world. How can you have a country that is so horrible, that is maltreating its own people, that are starving and malnourished, they have no healthcare, their housing, their roads are falling apart, not changing? How do you have that? Not doing anything about their own problems, right? Continuing to look for Thanoses and Galactuses and supervillains and evil Cubans and evil Russians out and evil Chinese, Ming the Mercilesses. How do you have these people still looking for these thrusting at windmills, in the exotic sense, looking for giants to fight, right? That don't exist, wasting their resources and money on war, killing themselves, killing the world, killing the planet, killing the ecology, killing the plants, animals, and everything else. How can you do that and people not change their country, right? The answer is all of these movies and games and stories. And the other stories, the greatest fiction writers are not, in fact, the Marvel writers' room. I mean, good job. You did a good job propagandizing all your people to join the U.S. military and back billionaire philanthropists, arms dealers, and playboys. But the greatest storytellers are the writers of American history. The greatest fiction writers are not Hemingway either. They're not Faulkner. They're not Tom Sawyer's writers. The greatest fiction writers, not T.S. Eliot, the greatest fiction writers are American history textbook writers, because everything in your textbooks is all nonsense. And also the policymakers who say and write nonsense, like every single one of them, left, right, and center, from the Squad to Pelosi to the Republicans. Everything they spew is just lies. So those are the greatest fiction writers, and they run everything in the United States. And the movie makers help to dramatize the lies that your history books, your college professors that don't speak up about the Cold War in China, because they're all cowards. And the anthropology department that continues to crush indigenous people. And the reason why people like the Patriot left will get National Socialism, they'll get a Nazi party of the United States, a more successful one than Trump's one going, because the greatest fiction writers have instilled in every American all the lies that are in your history textbooks, like America's greatest country in the world and Thomas Jefferson, all the stuff. I talk about this all the time, so you know what I'm talking about. Critical race theory is banned in 30 plus states, and that's only a liberal beginning of telling the truth about the racism and the capitalism and the crimes in the United States. Critical race theory doesn't touch the military-industrial complex and the crimes in Vietnam, the global South and the global East, and all the murder of the 20th century. It's just about trying to find out a way to not do trials of people like Ahmaud Arbery without having horribly racist, biased, unequal outcomes, right? That's all critical race theory is, but that's bad. That's unacceptable, right? And so stories like this are destroying your own country. You will never have healthcare if you keep making horrible stories like Avengers. You will self-annihilate. I hope that I hope it doesn't come to nuclear war. That's the end. But I think that the United States will probably just kill itself, and all of the West will probably just slowly strangle itself until it can't make. It will keep making terrible stories, projecting on the healthcareless, houseless walls of a falling apart cinema that nobody can afford to visit because everybody's died for COVID-19 and they don't have $2.50, let alone $13, $15 to go into a COVID-filled cinema, driving in a semiconductorless GM truck that malfunctions every 5 minutes, that hasn't died on the bridge over the that used to be the Golden Gate that didn't get built. So now they have like a plastic and steel straws, with duct tape and prayers that passes for America's Golden Gates and Hudson's River bridges, right? If they didn't die falling into the fossil fuel oil spill filled lakes and rivers on the way to that cinema, they can't afford to get into the cinema. So America will die because nobody will be able to afford the Disney Plus streaming service, because they spent all the Disney Plus $10 a month they could have had on the $70,000 COVID bill. Guess what? 2,000 people died today. COVID cases are going back up in the United States and Europe. So you know, what's gonna happen is you're gonna keep streaming threat in, you know, back to my point, right? You're gonna keep streaming threat inflation narratives in your wildfire incinerated houses till the electricity goes out, the 5G malfunctions because you don't build back better, because 95% of all the build back better, meager fraction of a percentage of what you needed to even just jumpstart America's roads, bridges, 5G, telecommunications, high-speed rail that China is advancing by leaps and bounds, and the septillion times faster supercomputers that they have already making the next version of. And that's why I think nuclear war is not going to happen, because America's nuclear missiles will malfunction before they can get off of their AUKUS, rusting, subaquatic star destroyers that are built with underpaid subcontractors doing the AI programming, and the guidance systems are all gonna misfire and shoot them like into the kaiju belching Marianas Trench. You know, the kaiju's gonna be like, why are you shooting down this missile down here? Aren't you supposed to be shooting at China? The kaiju's like, well, I mean, okay, I guess you shoot it down here, but we're not the threat right now, you know? See that, but you know, Pacific Rim is another movie that actually, like, you know, shows like, you know, an actual unity of people across the planet that's a little bit more honest about this. But anyways, so America and the West is going to project onto the Plato's cave of their incinerated, healthcareless, houseless, Nazi-filled, you know, I mean, just like normal white people and police that kill black people, and then all of America comes out to defend them, like Kenosha shooter, right? You know, you're going to be surrounded by people like that, starving, dying, malnourished, wasting all your money on spending $800 billion on your bombs and missiles, right? You're gonna do this, right? You're gonna spend all your money on that, right? More AUKUS subs, more hypersonic missiles that you misbuilt because you can't even get the missiles built, right? Because you're paying $7 an hour for the people that designed the fuselages, and they all rage quit and leak the plans to China before you can even get the missile finished. There's the last few generals, like the Pentagon tech chief, right? The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, you know, super Type 4 civilization, super intelligent machine that answers the question, what is the meaning of the life, universe, and everything, right? It's don't fear the China. That's the answer to survive. No, if you want a life to see the universe and have anything, stop making war in China. Stop talking about China. Listen to Chinese motherfucking voices, please. Asian voices, global socialist voices, global left voices, indigenous voices. Okay, and that includes China because they're all indigenous people there. So, but the machine that the tech chief was trying to build, right? The supercomputers and the artificial intelligence that could fight cyber warfare against China, he's already quit because America's already lost. So that's why I say, like, I think you know, failing America, stopping capitalism from destroying its capacity to build its F-22 Raptors, right? Its AUKUS subs, the guidance system, the Falcon and Winter Soldier, you know, threat foe Battlefield 2042 displays to go and shoot innocent Uyghurs. I'm sorry, the criminal Uyghurs, the other Muslims, right? The Fremen, not the Fremen of Arrakis, the Mujahideen and the Asian Muslims that America has been backing horrible movies about, like Zack Snyder's 300, to falsely inflate the threat of Muslim terrorism for the $21 trillion that you've been fighting in Iraq, Afghanistan, etc. So again, but there's no truth in the West. It's a total fucking joke. It's a total lie. There's no education system. 75% of France thinks that America won World War II. Even Europe is like owned by the United States. They're just, as Vijay Prashad, important anti-war, anti-imperialist, actual leftist from, I believe, Kerala, India, doing a good job of breaking up the seeds of colonialism that have implanted neoliberalism and US-backed fascism in India. As Vijay Prashad of No Cold War, you should follow No Cold War and Tricontinental. And Tinks Chak is another Asian Chinese person that does very important work illuminating the truth that you should also listen to. But as Vijay Prashad said, Europe is America's poodle, and that's why they believe whatever America says, because they all like pledge, like the feudal lord, like a bunch of feudal Europeans pledging to their feudal lord, right? Sig heiling to their feudal Nazi lord, America, right? That's what France, Germany, Austria all do, and that's why none of them. All the CIA director has to do is say, if you even investigate any of our war crimes, you even talk about investigating, we'll sanction your family and you'll be disinvited from the G7 and the G20, and we're not going to give you any more of the cashish to build nuclear subs, right? France is over there like wagging its little poodle tail, sipping its wine and crying into its $10,000 a glass Romani Conti overpriced wine that isn't worth $10,000. It's because the French are a bunch of fucking Versailles clowns, right? They're crying because they couldn't build weapons for America, right? So that's what Europe's good for. Nothing. Just like your descendant, America. So anyways, I hope you can get your shit together one day and stop pretending to be better than America like Canada while being worse in a lot of ways. Like, for example, participating in $450 trillion of transfer from the global south and east to the north. And then talking about doing better when you don't. And benefiting from the military-industrial complex. While not spending 55% of your discretionary spending on the military so that, you know, you can spend it on your own white healthcare, not the Muslim healthcare in Europe, because they're all maltreated in Europe because it's a racist shithole. Anyways, threat inflation though. So if you want to ever have nice things and not just be projecting on a wall in your, you know, as we already know, Europe and America are going to freeze in the dark this winter. COVID is going to continue. It's not going away. Let's look at the COVID numbers. I mean, this is not even for China's sake. This is for your sake. This is for your sake. Europeans and Americans, you're not going to stop China, Venezuela, Vietnam, Bolivia, Cuba. You can make terrible movies about how Cuba is where evil Russians thwart America, right? You can make terrible movies like that and think that, but Cuba is doing better than you in life expectancy. I was just watching a very important video. COVID-19 in the U.S. This is where you're at right now. You are at U.S. is at you've plateaued at a horrific level. Look at that, genius. Oh no, you're going back up. I'm sorry. So you're going back up. You had 2,000 deaths today. So let's just see how many China had. Altogether, 4,600. They had 26. Yeah, so to, you know, I mean, the data here is like, I don't know, it's a little odd date, but you know, they're still like at a handful of cases, you know. So you know, it's like it's basically, you know, the peak was 100. Okay, so you are a total abject failure. Period. The entire West, you're clowns. Even at not killing other people, you're just horrible. Pillaging of the rest of the world, $450 trillion is what you owe. You don't even have that to give. And you know, you're killing your own people. My goodness, it's just sad. Look at you. Look at you. You had 8,000. Oh, sorry, no, all of Europe is exploding. Look, Africa is doing okay. You know why Africa's doing okay? Because they're getting help from China. You know, South America, the parts that are doing okay, you know why they're doing okay? Because they got millions upon millions upon millions of vaccines and support from China, and they're getting the Belt and Road, and they get, you know, like, look at this map. This is just sad. The reason why you will keep dying is because you are not socialist. You are not. Your left continues to fail to undo your racialized capitalism, which is what you all have, and your imperialism, which is what you all continue to do, to Africa, to Asia, to Turtle Island, the Americas, to the Pacific. And this is just like, I'm just sad for you right now. You know, stop participating. You know, you should just like stop. Have the balls to say no to your daddy in America. As Karl, I'm using Karl Marx not because I think Karl Marx is particularly. I'm not trying to throw shade at Karl Marx. I'm just saying he's the left who said that the United States is the fusion of the vitality of Anglo-Saxon, Celtic, Teutonic, and Germanic strains of the great white civilizations. and that's why they are this, and America is the major power now. But you know what you should do is you should like be dialectical and interrogate your own internal racism. I know there's a lot of Europeans because they all rage quit last time and they didn't want to hear what I'm saying, and that's okay. You can leave and go away and keep dying. The group of friends in defense of the UN Charter, the historically colonized peoples of the earth, will increase our material conditions. We will continue to fight climate change, right? China is doing more on climate change than all the rest of the United States and the West put together. Cumulative emissions, it's a tiny fraction of the West. The fastest peak to phasing out zero carbon footprint of any country on the earth. And China actually meets and exceeds usually their own set expectations of themselves. The U.S. and Europe, they never meet anything. It takes the U.S. like 1,000 times longer to build a bridge that they estimate it's going to build in a year to 10 years. They take, they're many times over budget. They're many times over the window of construction. Europe talks about how it has a great transportation system. It doesn't. It's not even close to China's. The Belt and Road far exceeds anything Europe can do. Europe's slightly better than the United States, but Europe is also falling apart. And Europe's slightly betterness is because Europe is the poodle of the United States that hasn't dealt with its racism, that it still continues to do with this horrible xenophobic policies, keeping people at the border, internally black non-white people in France, in Germany, in Sweden, still overrepresented in poverty, prison, etc., 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 and backing U.S. imperialism for its benefit, Sweden included. Sweden soldiers killing people in Afghanistan, doing nothing, right? Extradition clauses, following the CIA. When Merkel gets her phone tapped, just bends over backwards and says, "Oh, please, America, I'll speak louder next time so that you can hear me talk." Doing nothing, cowards. Austrian and Romanian presidents happy to, say we should be against gay marriage, but none of them will do anything against the U.S. military, because all of Europe is a continued colonizer pet of the United States, and their little poodle is not getting as much kibble as it used to because your U.S. daddy is dying. And you should interrogate that shit. You should really interrogate that. You should really look very closely, because that's the only way because again, the global South and the global East and Asia, Turtle Island, Africa, all the historically colonized people, the pendulum of history, that's the great movement, is all of these places are undoing the damage that you have caused to the ecology, to the earth, and they're all indigenous peoples, right? That's indigenous means those people that Europeans have showed up on your land and we haven't stolen you and brought you there. You're the people that we are killing, subjugating, dehumanizing, and stealing land and stealing resources from. Sir Thomas Brown, 1646. That are from the place that we are pillaging. That's what indigenous means. So the indigenous people are, Turtle Island, Africa. It's about 7 out of 8 of the world's people, and then you have the white people, basically. White people and Japan. There's a few other places that have participated in this. Japan is one of the biggest, and Japan is very. You can tell because Japan is very closely linked with the Japanese central bank, the EU, ECB, and the U.S. Central Bank of the United States Federal Reserve, leading in financial weapons of mass financial destruction in 15 to 26 to 30 plus trillion dollars worth of money printing in the last decades for their own personal benefit. They're all, you can see them because they're all the ones that have participated in this historical colonial structure for the last few centuries. But that's being undone right now. So whether you like it or not, Captain America is not going to save you, Europe. You can't just be Cammy, right? Following a Belgian playing an American soldier up the Yellow River again with your gunboats. I'm sorry, France, you can't ransack the Summer Palace again. It's not gonna happen. I don't care how many subs you set up. You can't even make your subs properly. I just read that the Navy, Seattle-based Navy steel examiner that actually makes sure that there are no cracks, faults, and that the tensile strength and the parts per million of carbon and dead nurses that get ground up and put into American subs, because we gotta fill it with sawdust or something, because we can't use the quality of steel required so that the compression strength of the submarines is enough to withstand 500-meter depths. The nuclear subs that American, Australian, and British are sailing up the butt of Southeast Asia to try to do Opium Wars 2.0, right? That is failing. Opium Wars 3.0, nuclear strike on Taiwan. The submarines are built with terrible steel quality, so I hope that you don't die in a horrible 10,000 pounds per square inch compression of your brain and your body and whatever remains of your COVID-filled lungs, because the U.S. military is the #1 vector of global pandemics, including the Spanish flu from the U.S. military bases for Dietrich, as well as the COVID-19 pandemic. So Europe, you're gonna die building the U.S. subs, wasting money that could have been feeding and housing your French people, especially the black and Muslim ones that are overrepresented in poverty. And then you're going to die into subs that you've built for America, because you're going to build it because of your own destructive capitalism, not up to par, misengineered. That's the only thing America and the West makes, misengineered Cyberpunk 2077 video games, misengineered subs, misengineered bridges that are falling apart everywhere, right? Even after San Francisco had a bridge built that right after it was built, they realized it had a giant 1 foot discrepancy. Literally it was, you had the road here and then you have a foot break in the bridge. Before it was even finished, it was already broken, right? So at this rate, you're gonna have to build bridges not every 80 years. They're saying America is 30 to 50 years overdue for overhaul for all of its infrastructure. At this rate, if you build your infrastructure already broken, you're gonna have to build it every minute, right? The event horizon of collapsed bridges and dead Americans due to electric blackouts and causing thousands of people to freeze to death sitting in front of their broken chimneys in Texas, paying $16,751 for their month of electricity while they die in the dark. You're just gonna keep dying in the dark. It's just sad for you. So when I say that, I'm not saying this to like piss. I am upset at a lot of this because you banned my language and culture and destroyed my community, and your U.S. military is spilling 180 million gallons of fossil fuel into my parents' aquifer, and you poison all my fucking family, including Positive Synergy. One of our members here who was literally almost. Thank God we're in the more socialist parts of Hawaii where we get like sliding scale Vietnam style, close to Vietnam style healthcare. That if you need help, you get help, then we don't fucking try to nickel and dime you to death. Our member Positive Synergy almost died from dehydration because America's water supply and infrastructure was spewing, bright red, toxic, rust-filled lead and copper and literal U.S. aircraft carrier fuel-filled water from the water pipes in Hawaii. So that is upsetting for me too. That's upsetting. I mean, we're in the more socialist parts of Hawaii. I'm trying to organize eventually all of Hawaii will be part of the Belt and Road, and it won't be America anymore. Well, Hawaii isn't part of America, but soon, because you're gonna keep falling apart, and Cuba is already joining the Belt and Road. Central South America is moving online. The U.S. can't do anything to stop it because your movies are terrible. The good thing is nobody's ever going to watch anymore. COVID-19 is actually a major benefit to the world, because nobody can watch any of your terrible fucking movies that justify with manufacturer consent your war, capitalism, propaganda, and thinking America is a great country, because nobody can go to the theater, right? So that's the good news. You're going to keep failing, and what you have to do is own your $450 trillion of global wealth siphoning from the south to the north. Not that you can never pay it back. You don't need to actually pay it all back, but you need to repatriate as much as you can to the historically oppressed peoples, right? Yajo, Alkebulan, Abya-Yala, North and South Abya-Yala, North and South Hanuna, depending on what indigenous people of the Americas that you ban the languages of is using it to describe those continents. Do what you can, acknowledge that we had the most advanced civilizations and the most successful actual socialist countries in the world, including Hawaii, which had the world's first universal healthcare system. So Europe, all your universal healthcare, you copied Hawaii. But you know what I don't see in Wikipedia? Because Wikipedia is an arm of the U.S. military and the Western imperialist powers. You know what I don't see is universal healthcare honesty. And I don't even want to try, because I have an Elizabeth LaPonce, who is another indigenous game developer and a professor at University in Michigan. Elizabeth LaPonce tried to add indigenous true history to Wikipedia, and the white pro-capitalist libertarian clowns that run Wikipedia basically said these are insignificant edits. They're not important enough to justify an entry So indigenous people are barred from editing Wikipedia because it's a white supremacist, capitalist, imperialist organization. So fuck you. And also, universal healthcare system did not begin with Otto von Bismarck, right? Universal healthcare began in sovereign Hawaii under Emma. I show you a picture of it, but Wikipedia doesn't care, to be honest, about indigenous civilizations having the world's first universal healthcare system, right? Because they're too busy doing America and Europe's dirty work, like Marvel and Hollywood, and every left, right, and center organization in Europe and America, and your professors and your news media, right? And even Mother Jones today is saying, how do we talk about China and Taiwan the quiet part is to start nuclear war, or because we're a bunch of fucking idiots pretending to be leftists at Mother Jones. That's what the subtext is. And so people like actual educators like Carl Jha, like actual Chinese educators, just average Chinese people, Luna is just an average Vietnamese woman, have to come out and like try to educate totally diseducated Western fucking idiots. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say fucking idiot, but it's so frustrating because I have to go every time I turn on my anything, my social media, the news, the blue check mark, the news media, most of the Western left friends that I hope I still count them as friends, but it's not really they're fucking idiots. It's not really it's just very diseducated and scared to be honest. Not fucking idiots, but it's just so frustrating. It's something that I just like. The stormtrooper half of me is just like, I'm gonna verbally do violence to these people, but it's not, and after I'm just getting pissed off, because I went to a $20,000 a year private school that forced me to speak your disgusting stormtrooper language called English, and I didn't. Hawaiian was banned when I was born in Hawaii by you, Americans and Europeans. The British forced us to put a Union Jack in our fucking flag. So and the world's first universal healthcare system was trying to get that one. This is the actual truth. Like I said, there's no education. Do you learn this in Europe? Do you learn that the Native Hawaiians, indigenous people of the Pacific, invented universal healthcare? No. You learn that you're such a nice, good people, and you've sucked them because the last Nazi died when Hitler went away, right? No. 70% of Germany's cabinet, its government, was Nazis that America put in charge for you. Because it's America, Karl Marx speaking highly of America and its national socialism, like the patriot left is trying to get rid of women and black people, just like Hitler and Goebbels tried to get rid of women and black people and Jews especially from Germany, and America's helping you out by putting all your Nazis in charge, right? You're never gonna learn any of this in Europe because you're all cowards and liars to this day. The first universal healthcare system in the world was the fight was led by Emma Kalani Kaumaka Amano Kaleleo Nalani Naea Rook. She believed that access to healthcare was a privilege, not a privilege, but a national security concern and right. When the push failed in the legislature, she went house to house in Oahu to ask for donations to fund a public hospital that provided free healthcare. She accomplished this goal and founded Queen's Hospital in 1859, which included a training center for nurses. So, Hawaiians didn't particularly want to put, British style sashes and monocles and earrings on necessarily. Tried to have as much, but if you didn't do that, the so-called civilized countries of Europe would just come in and, slaughter you all and plant a British flag in it, or an American flag, or a French flag, and enslave you all, right? That's what it did to slave trade you, right? Steal you as coolie labor, suck all of the resources out of your ground. So that's why Hawaiians had to dress like this while doing socialism, like your horrible, disgusting European dress. Not that it's disgusting, but it's just like not the dress. Horrible, disgusting European practices while acting so-called civilized, while being the number one barbarians on Earth, and then lying about yourself, just like Marvel does to this day. Queen's Hospital, 1859. The mother of universal healthcare was present for Sun Yat-sen's graduation at Iolani. Sun later led revolution in China, organized from and modeled on sovereign Hawaii that also led the world in literacy. Today, China has guaranteed healthcare, education, and housing for 1.4 billion. So I would argue that actually there's never been any socialism anywhere in the West. It's Hawaii, it's China, it's the group of friends in defense of the UN Charter. The SOCDEM Germany is backed by global colonialism, which is not, and imperialism, which is not socialism. So Germany doesn't have socialism. It has white national socialism for white Germans, just like Hitler wanted. That's what you have. Hitler, the Red-Brown Alliance is everywhere in the West. It's never stopped. They just put Democrats in charge and pretend like they're not slaughtering 7,000 black people in Chicago. That's all you have. You're all failures. You should accept this so you stop dying from COVID. Being a bright student, Sun Yat-sen learned very rapidly while at Iolani in Hawaii. In Hawaii, not in Europe. When he graduated in 1882, not in Marx's school of Das Kapital, while he was too busy over there talking about the Tartarification of the Russians, right? Failing to get any revolutions done in Europe. Sun Yat-sen learned about the socialism of the greatest social success in Hawaii. It was awarded a prize by Kalakaua. At the ceremony, in attendance were the Dowager Queen Emma and Princess Liliuokalani. The Chinese community was very proud of this event. So this is the beginning of the global successful actual socialist project. Was in Hawaii, Sun Yat-sen. And today, the most successful actual socialist country that America is trying to thread inflate into a giant fucking Thanos-like world ender, right? Because that's all you can do, right? This is all you can do, is turn China into Thanos, right? Today, they're commemorating the Hawaii educated, because we actually had a universal education system that Europe still doesn't have, right? That's why you all think that America won World War II, right? And you're all still not honest about China. You're too busy. Your DW News is too busy writing about how China is threatening Europe. Your BBC, your European BBC, is too busy writing about how the Uyghur genocide and Taiwan has to be liberated from the Chinese colonizer. So there's still no education system in Europe, including all of your universities that train Adrian Zenz. When I say that, I know it's gonna hurt to hear it, but I mean, do you want to have poverty alleviation for all of your people? Do you want to prevent do you want to stop wasting money, or do you want to be honest for the first time in your history, or do you want and then get better? Do you want to go through Empires Anonymous and Barbarisms Anonymous and get better, or do you want to keep lying with your left, right, and center clowns for your own sake? Because we're not gonna stop building global socialism. I'm not gonna stop saying true shit. I mean, nobody's gonna listen to it, but I'm trying to help you right now. And last stream, I watched 7 Europeans and Canadians, probably Canadians and Europeans, usually quick. When I'm dunking on the US, they're okay, but when I start talking about all the little poodles and little pet moose and the little pet Shiba Inus in Japan, the Japanese imperialists that are backing the United States, when I start criticizing them, and you all rage quit. I'm trying to help. I'm trying to help you get through Barbarism Anonymous so you can get on the path and join the global actual socialist project for the first time in your failed existence. Before you fail to exist. It's frustrating because, almost everybody that I see that's resharing the stuff about China, Vietnam, they're all Vietnamese or Chinese people. I should say there are some people that have the courage to come out and say that are white people, but 90%, and that's also infuriating, right? Because I want to say that there is a large, burgeoning, like 20 to 50% of the United States, the European Union, Australia, and New Zealand are real leftists that are fighting for, in truth and honesty, for global socialism, against racism, against sexism, against bigotry, against imperialism. But the truth is, 90% of you are not. Every time I think about it, it pisses me off because I think of how that's gonna hurt you. It's just irritating because I have to realize that I have people that I have organized with that are cowards or liars. One of the two. Cowards, liars, concerned more about themselves than their own success and actual climate. They say stuff about climate, but then they're liars about it because they don't want to be honest about how to actually solve climate change. It's not by, using a few more steel straws and punching down on indigenous people being a white vegan, right? And I have to keep on. It's just sad. It's sad. It's infuriating. So I get infuriated and then I get sad. But there's no really two ways about this. There's no two ways about this. Sooner or later, you have to take the hard medicine. I can try to put a lot of sugar on it. I try to put, Marvel Guardians of the Galaxy's nerd catnip all over it. I try to put some artificial intelligence, cool nerd shit because I have a degree in computer programming and I work on artificial intelligence and machine learning stuff, and I try, but at the end of the day, you have to swallow this, and because just like the United States has to swallow and accept its racism, it's like there's some of the patriot left is starting to say anti-imperialism, which is the U.S. has to have anti-imperialist to have an actual left successful socialism. But then they're also saying, okay, well, we have to not deal with our racism and our sexism and our bigotry internally, just class, right? That's like, and then the other half is like, let's not deal with our imperialism and let's just have a liberal idpol. There is a kind of liberal identity politics. You have to deal with identity politics because that's what white supremacy and racialized capitalism has, identity politics. But both sides are wrong in some sort of fashion in what calls itself the Western left, for the most part, for the U.S. left in particular. That's the patriot left people, and it's just at the end of the day, what I want is I have a whole album, right? It's called Indigenous Socialist Civilization. I'm kind of off my topic now, but I'm not off. I'm off of the fictional topic that I was pretending to talk about, but I'm never talking about that ultimately at the end of the day, because that's not whether Avengers is good or not. That's not really what matters, right? To the survival of this Earth, which you are jeopardizing. Not just the survival of Hawaii, because your thermonuclear weapons that might be fired in event of hot war, kinetic warfare breaking out across the Taiwan Strait, which will lead to nuclear warfare, because that's the only way that resolves, right? That it is jeopardizing my existence, but it jeopardizes everyone's existence. The nuclear war that you threaten, and not just a nuclear war, but the climate collapse that you do nothing about, being a white vegan environmentalist, using a steel straw, punching down on indigenous people, not dealing with your internal racism, racialized capitalism, adherence to the military-industrial complex, and imperialism, right? All of it. Not just oh, well, we should invade less countries but still be racist, racialized, capitalist, sexist. They're just gonna split you up inside of the United States and then get you to, just like the Nazis, talk capitalism, working class, and then at the end of the day, because they're all, they're not in radical solidarity. They're not really addressing their internal violence and their own internal German colonialism and their own internal German racism, right? And they targeted Jews, right? So at the end of the day, it's like it's just sad, because that's basically what you've got. You've got there are not zero Western left, but it's near zero. You know what I'm saying? And that's offline. It's like, well, it's just online. No. Offline, it's even worse. Offline, most of the United States is not. Because some people go, well, most of the leftists organizing in the real world are really in radical. They're really in solidarity. I mean, the people that are actually organizing in actual solidarity are, yes, well, some of them, but many workplaces are full of racism. Like Danny Haifong said, you ever tried organizing the working class in the West? It's full of racism. U.S., Canada, it's full of racism that you have to get past. And yeah, you can get a strike or two. A strike or two is not socialism. You can have a strike, and you can strike, and for example, the AFL-CIO strikers that were literally voted to stop people from talking about Black Lives Matter, Palestine, anything at their strikes, because you can have bourgeois strikes. Just sort of like, I'm going to strike to get my $35 national socialism. It's very important. The Nazis are not. Yes, the horrible atrocities visited on against the Jewish people under anti-Semitism and the Holocaust. That's horrific and that is destructive. But the project of National Socialism, it didn't begin with let's just kill all the Jews. They actually were less racist than American work. This is very important. But people like to. It's part of this. We need a bad guy over there so that we can be the good guy. You're the bad guy. It's Bad Guys Anonymous. Like in Wreck-It Ralph. Like Bad Guys Anonymous. That's where America and Europe, Captain Canada, Captain America, and Captain Japanese puppets need to go into Bad Guys Anonymous. That's where you got to go, right? You can't go to Bad Guys Anonymous when you're producing Hitler. That's the bad guy. No, it's you, Germany. You can't produce. You can't go where you got it. Can't get the help that you need, as long as you insist that you do not need the help. That's why number one, Alcoholics Anonymous, right? It's funny because there's an Alcoholics Anonymous, but you need everything anonymous. You're like, Racist Anonymous, Racialized Capitalist Anonymous, Imperialist Anonymous, right? Hey, I am a rich, middle class, or poor white American, and I am a racist, capitalist, imperialist. All of those. I'm a racist, capitalist, sexist, transphobic, imperialist, beneficiary, white American, and sometimes black and sometimes brown, but less of those. More of those are in radical solidarity because, you know, the ones that have like too much stormtrooperism installed in them by racist America. But that's where everybody has to go. That's where Europe, hey, I'm a multi-century colonizer trying to put all of my crimes against Asia, Africa, and America onto America, right? You have to own your fucking wrongs. You know? I know it's hard. You know? Because I used to believe that there was a way to just muddle through in America, but, you know, and I'm like, no, there's not. There's not. You have to address all of the primary and secondary contradictions all at the same time, right? And that's, you know, and you know, but anyway, that's why I made this album. You know, it's like you know, it's called Indigenous Civilization. You know, not well. This is one about Hawaii, but you know, Warriors of the Land Back. You know, which is a song for all of my indigenous relatives, especially in Turtle Island, that are the 2% of the population stopping 25% of the climate change. Okay, so like indigenous people in the United States, they understand, right, what it requires to have radical solidarity and actually give your life for a cause. How many fucking white lifestylist fucking vegans, right, who half of them have all flipped, all the YouTuber vegans, they've all fucking flipped to like Mexi talks about the vegan TM, they've all flipped to being, like a lot of them have flipped to being raw carnivore, eat all the meat diet, because that's what they were always about, right? That's what the Patriot Left is about. Like, get me my $35 an hour and my healthcare and my housing, and then I'm gonna go fucking keep killing black people and abusing my wife and being a sexist and a racist, right? They edited Richard Wolf's video, the Patriot Left, just to be clear. That Hinkle guy edited Richard Wolf's video to make it seem like Richard Wolf wasn't saying that we should negate racism and sexism. He literally edited it. So that's who you're all organizing with. You've got this Caleb clown over there, you know, just you know, pulling it all out there. You know, they're anti-imperialist, but then internally they're not dealing with the racism and the sexism inside. They're just going, it's SJW, this and that, and you know. So you're gonna, you know, and then you have the people that are like, well, we should have more black women war criminals. No, we don't need more Kamala Harris's. You know, like both of these are wrong. You know, you two be anti-racist, anti-sexist, and anti-imperialist, and anti-capitalist. I mean, how hard is that? No, but that's impossible. That's impossible because almost nobody in the West wants to deal with the fact that they are not the good guy. They want to be the good guy, right? They go like, well, this half of the country is wrong, right? Because they're SJW screaming women and black people, right? And I'm the good one. I'm gonna fight the U.S. military waving a fucking American flag around me and all my white man friends, right? And then there's other people like, well, you know, this is the bad Republicans that are all the white mans, and I'm the good white woman vegan that's backing the U.S. empire, stomping on all of the global South, and that I work as a military industrial complex, fucking a programmer, writer, BBC news article writer, fucking Excel spreadsheet programmer, right? And that's wrong. In the other way, it's like either in the West, you're either beating down on the global non-white peoples, or you're beating internally on the non-white peoples. You know, you're either the world police, you know, you're the pro-imperialist, but maybe I care about a few black people, not really, or you're the police, you know, like fuck all the black and the brown and people, and let's keep on George Floyding them all, but also, you know, the anti-imperialism good though. You know, and I don't actually think that they give a fuck about that. They're just saying that, just like people that just like when Trump ran on, hey, we should pull out of some wars. He didn't give a fuck about the black and brown people across the earth, just like the Patriot Left don't give a fuck about no black people across the earth now. The ones that are saying they're anti-imperialist are not. They're like, fuck all those people. I just want to get I want my deal for me. And, you know, that sucks, because if you continue to be colonists, then you can't be our relatives as members of the global normal human civilization, which is mutual aid based, mutual respect, mutual cooperation between people to Aina, people to Earth, and you know, across the planet. And across the galaxy, hopefully one day. But if you can't deal with all of your internal baggage, not list this much and then throw it off over there on someone else, your own shit, all of it, then we'll leave. We have no choice but to kind of not, we have to watch it be sad as you fail to get socialism and kill yourself some more. But we're not gonna as Vijay Prashad, we're not gonna be your coolies anymore. So you're gonna kill yourself and harm yourself and have internal capitalism and inequality and racist capitalism and racist imperialism in your own countries with less and less and less and less resources. Because what Hawaii, what Hawaii and our descendants in China, in terms of like showing what a successful, technologically advanced modern civilization could be like, right? An actual anti-racist, right? Again, Sun Yat-sen, the father of modern China, that is the most successful actual socialist country in the history of the planet of Earth, right? You care about ecology, you care about the environment and animals and the plants, right? All sentience. You have to. So China is the one that's supporting the number one backer of the things that are actually being concretely done to support all of the environment, all plants and all animals. If you're a vegan and you're not immediately saying China is doing so much and the West has to really follow the lead, you're a clown, you're a liar, you're just a white supremacist that likes to pet your Fido or your poodle. Like, I like to pet, US likes to pet its poodle too. It's called Europe and Canada. But I mean, there's something beyond that. It's called actually caring about the animals and the plants of the earth. And, and so China, the independent Kingdom of Hawaii was a model, as I said previously, to develop a technologically modern and politically independent, actively anti-imperialist and anti-racist, both, right? And anti-sexist, right? Hawaii was a matriarchal or equal or matriarchal society. So you have to all of it together, right? In actual radical solidarity, not in a transactional, right? What can I get from this union? What can I get from this anti-imperial saying? What clout can I get from my YouTube channel, right? How can I get elected this cycle by saying this thing right now? You have to have actual radical solidarity, right? The indigenous people, because they're out there, they're willing to die, and they have died. They're dying every day, fighting fossil fuel companies on their land, on unceded land, to stop the black snake from dumping another 100 billion pounds of CO2 in the atmosphere, poisoning the waters, the rivers, the lakes, and the land of this earth, right? They have the radical salt. Somebody's sitting around making a fucking white vegan video and then becoming a white carnivore diet, beef, salt, turmeric, Jordan Petersonian fucking grift after that, because it's not cool anymore. What the fuck good are you doing? You're doing nothing. But that's most of the Western right. That's all the Western right in the center, and most of the Western left. I want to come on this stream, and I want to be like, oh man, I am so hopeful for the United States and Europe, because their offline and online activism is, wow, it's like really going in the right direction. But that's not what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a split where indigenous people, black people, Professor Flowers, Professor Flowers, there's Luna Oy, there's Carl Jaw, there's the Asian and the Pacific Islander and the black and the Hispanics of the world, the oppressed people in Central South America of the world, in Yajo and Alcabilan and in Abiyala / Hanuna, and in the Kanaka Moana, the indigenous peoples of the world. And then there's everyone else over there fucking doing, I don't know what the fuck they're doing, but they're not doing anything useful. But I don't say false things, because that would not gonna help you. And I can't come up here and go, oh yeah, you have there's Mexi, there's American Johnson, there's you have the all the people the people that are of low melanin count and such that are supporting what we're doing here, of course, right? We have Kavika Guillermo, who is identifies as I'm a settler. Professor Dr. Chris Patterson, we've got, Adam Smith, we've got our handful of people here, but when I look at like what's out there, what's the wider culture, these are still the minority of Voltaire's and Professor Wolf minority amongst a majority of racist anti-capitalist or pseudo anti-racist pro-capitalist or kind of anti-imperialist, but not really anti-LGBTQ, anti-women, or some wrong, some kind of getting it but not, and being a selfish prick. Some combination of being selfish, half right, and not fully addressing all of the wrongs, and trying to run away. It's just a I don't know. I know it's hard because, if you're white, if you're very light and your family are German, Irish, and English for the last 5 generations, and you're from Idaho, and you're surrounded by other white people who don't want to deal with their historical racism, and they just want to talk about how Bill Gates was a problem. He is a problem. Capitalism is a problem. I know it's hard, and because that's something that we had a white, just like pure white, like purely Irish, like British, Germanic, I don't know which, but we're just white is white. Like look like a shorter version of Superman white, right? A shorter version of blonde Superman. And like it's really hard for me to organize without just ignoring race and sexism in white Idaho, Michigan. And I'm like, yeah, it's hard, but the solution isn't okay. Well, so I'm gonna just like put that aside, and I'm just gonna focus on class, and I'm gonna say that cancel culture and all the whining women and the whining LGBTQ plus people and all the whining black people, right? And the Kenosha shooter was right. We had somebody with an 8-year degree in Marxist philosophy say the Kenosha shooter was right. That's what everybody's coming out for right now, right? And Professor Flowers over there like, what the fuck is this? Like, somebody who was brought across state lines by a white family with an assault rifle to defend against people asking for basic justice in the only way that the United States fascist, racist to the core, capitalist, police murdering project can hear, which is mass, very, very boisterous demonstrations. And people are out there, but but what that tells me, it's very sad, because that tells me that there's Black Lives Matter, and then there's LGBTQ plus community, and then there's the indigenous communities, and then there's all those other people. That's the majority. 60% of America is white, so that's the majority of the United States, actually, right? And that's very sad. It's very disheartening. It's very disturbing. And again, it's just this person that was like, yeah, the Kenosha shooter, Kyle Rittenhouse, was innocent and deserves to get off free. Was somebody with a 6+ year degree in Marxist-Leninism, like knew and met Richard Wolff, right? And is over there defending Kyle Rittenhouse and saying destiny is right. All these people, and yeah, oh, that's the online. No, that's not. It's worse offline. Don't kid yourself. It's even, yes, there's a lot of idiocy and wrong stuff online, but offline, most of the United States is not there for radical solidarity. The AFLs, the unions that are going on strike, they're going on strike opportunistically. They're not going on strike to undo the United States empire. They're going on strike because, employers are having a hard time right now. Let's all go on strike. I'm not saying that it's bad to go on strike, because on strike will increase the class consciousness of the people in the United States who need more of that. They don't even have basic stuff like that, right? To have a Nazi National Socialist project in the United States, you need to have anti-capitalism, right? So the 20 teens but that's not sufficient. That just gets you to the Nazi party, right? That's Germany and Mussolini, right? After the 1980s, right? Nobody even after the Cold War, nobody even fucking knows what you can't have a National Socialist Nazi party till you get there. But now America is there. They know capitalism is bad, and the solution is black people and women and some other ethnic minority is what's stopping the white working class, which discounts teachers, nurses, women-coded jobs, and gay and trans and black people and all those people are SJWs, stopping the white capitalist working class. I read some from Goebbels last time. I don't want to read it again. It makes my soul sick to read white socialists and white leftists speaking their disgusting racism that they continue to this day, including German socialists who are racist, and that's why they are okay with taking 97% of Bolivia's lithium and leaving them with 3% and starving, right? The German socialists, the Nazis are still all over Germany. It's not politically acceptable to go gas a lot of people anymore. That's the difference. That the Europeans are not okay with that. They're okay with killing innocent people because they back the United States and they go fucking fight wars with them. Like France in Libya, right? France is okay with mass slaughtering innocent people like Nazis. As long as it's in a way that all of your terrible movies and your media can make it look like it's okay. Like killing innocent people that are brown in Iraq and Libya. Right? Anyways. And I know that's all hard to hear because I got a lot of Europeans. I understand. They all get. I had a European like fucking cry on me on a stream one time. He's like, "Oh, well, you know, I'm just having a hard time. I'm having a hard time because there's not going to be a lot of electricity and fossil fuel out. We're gonna have a hard time this winter." I'm like, "Yeah, you're gonna keep having a hard time because you don't want to be honest about China. You're insisting on an anarchist project succeeding. You know, like a 2-year wasn't even fully anarchist success in Spain, and then that fucking thing fell apart. You don't have any successes. Europe is a total fucking failure." And if you do not get in radical solidarity and actually be honest about Asia, listen to Asians and then platform them, don't talk about them in your left streams, don't have a bunch of white people get on a fucking panel and talk about Asians, black people, indigenous people, which is what I'm seeing. I want to say that I'm not seeing that, but that's what I'm seeing. A bunch of fucking white so-called leftists getting on streams punching down at every other people on the planet and talking about how Europe is gonna solve climate change. Europe gonna die in its fucking wildfires and floods just like thousands of Germans did and Austrians. You're gonna keep dying and killing yourself. You can greenwash it, eco-wash, you can all this shit you want. You can ride your bike and have your fucking little solar panel and keep lying about China, and you will continue to fuck yourself and the planet. So there is nowhere I don't know what's going to happen up there. I don't want to think about it too much because, you know, when Europe starts having hard times, millions of people die in racist, needless warfare. You know, I have a game called Neofeud, and there's a scene where Europe, basically like Europe, all of America's satellite puppets that aren't spending 66% of their fucking discretionary spending on military, they're all dying in conflagrations of the medieval times, but with cell phones and assault rifles. I don't really want to think about it too much because it makes me sad. But if you don't come clean, that's where you're going. That's where I see America going. That's where I see Europe going. Indigenous people and black and non-white people in the United States, get in the communities that you can get into as fast as you can. Because that's where the United States is. The United States is not, the white United States is not dealing with its racism and its sexism. It is going to die. It is going to keep dying, and sometimes with weapons, with guns. It's already dying with weapons. But there are guns being pulled on, Black Lives Matter and left protests by right wing in the United States all over the place, right? And the U.S. police, Biden is the fucking N-word sayer in chief. Biden is there to fucking massacre. He massacred tons of indigenous people in South America, and he backed the most racist crime. You know, this is the thing. If Biden actually wanted to build back better, Biden and his administration and all Democrats would come clean on all of their crimes, including his crime bill and his instrumental role in mass incarcerating, right? 2.5 million disproportionately non-white BIPOC people in prison, especially black people. But Biden isn't doing that. No, he's just going, let's just build a little infrastructure. Just like his little pet patriot left is over there going, let's just have a little $35, let's have German wages for white guys and do National Socialism. Like, let's do Nazi Party America, right? Nazi Party with less overt gassing. We'll gas some Uyghurs and some Muslims and some Iraqi. We'll gas them with chemical weapons and bombs, right? And then we'll blame it on the Assad regime because we need to continue fighting Asians, right? We'll gas them, but we can't gas them here. Well, maybe in a dark room in fucking Chicago or Baltimore under a black mayor. That makes it look okay to slaughter black people, making them play fucking Russian roulette, innocent people, right? In the dark. And I said this like earlier this year. There won't be any building back. If there was going to be a building back better, if there was an actual change, it would require, what? Okay, I gotta get off soon. It would require all this change, but that's not what I'm seeing. That's not what I'm seeing, and that's ultimately what I wanted to talk about. And also, anyway, the reason why I brought that up is because this is the actual universal health. The first universal healthcare was in Hawaii, but Wikipedia, right, and all the nerds the nerd community, all the programmers, are too busy, and the people and the editors and all the Redditors and all these fucking clowns, right? They're too busy lying all over the Wikipedia entry. I'm not even gonna try to edit this. You know why? Because if I try to edit it, I'm gonna be told what Elizabeth LaPonce and Megan Byrne and other indigenous non-white people trying to correct white supremacist capitalist bullshit so-called arbiter information Wikipedia articles are told, which is that your indigenous information is not important enough to be included. So I'm not gonna try, but Otto von Bismarck did not start the universal healthcare system, so that's okay. Go be racist and die in a fucking hole, idiots. Because you're not gonna stop the decolonized parts of Hawaii from having the universal healthcare system. That Queen's system has not fully been destroyed, by the way, despite the United States attempts, right? Like they destroyed Libya's, right? Free healthcare system, free electricity, free education, free interest-free loans, newlyweds receiving $50,000 a month, mothers receiving $5,000 of birth of a child, citizens receiving a percentage of all oil sales and petrols over 0.14 per liter, not actual socialism, government paid for by 50% of the price of your car, unemployed Libyans receiving the average salary for their profession. Before they came to power, and 25% of Libyans were illiterate. Today, it's 83%. People wanting to be farmers, given land, a house, equipment, seeds, and livestock all for free. And then the United States bombed them with France, with the EU, into the fucking Stone Age, and now there are slave markets there. And most of the country doesn't have access to their basic needs if they're not being fucking killed in horrific US-backed war. And then Americans go, oh, you're all throwing spears at each other, just like Prince motherfucking Philip. Oh, you're still throwing spears at each other? No, you are throwing tomahawk missiles, bombing people in the Stone Age, backing far-right extremists, making people throw spears, and then saying, look, it's Libyan on Libyan crime, right? All of Kenosha shooters were all bad people, and it was just black on black crime, Antifa on Antifa crime, Black Lives Matter activists on Black Lives Matter activist crime. Kyle Rittenhouse was just cleaning up, right? But that's Europe for Libya, going, oh, you all deserve to be in the fucking Stone Age because the French, the Germans, and Germany going, well, it's Bolivian on Bolivian crime. It's not like we're complicit in backing America's fucking theft of their country and US-backed fucking fascists. No. We're clean little fucking Germans. No, this is the reality. Is that Africa had a socialist country. And then Europe and America fucking murdered it. And nobody in Europe or America is going to come clean on that. I can't organize with my fellow Germans and French and Americans talking about the truth about how racist, capitalist, and imperialist that we are. I can't organize in the white suburban Germany, which almost all of Germany is like that. I can't organize in the French, in the Swedish, and the Spanish suburb, and in the even working class, or in the poor, middle, or upper class. I can't organize in any class in Idaho, in Michigan, in Ottawa, in fucking Vancouver, or in the rural area. I can't organize if I actually come. Okay, well, I'll be left in the past then. I don't know. You know, this is the truth. Danny Haifong is not a white person. Danny Haifong is a Vietnamese person who was called a sick, disgusting Afghani, and a U.S. military member tried to murder him in the streets of fucking Brooklyn, or one of the cities on the East Coast. It might not be Brooklyn. Danny Haifong is a non-white person that's trying to fucking do actual journalism, and he's like fucking starving to death. Not starving. He's like starving for funds. He has to like, please support me so I can do journalism. Meanwhile, people are getting 600,000 like Dave Rubin to fucking spew nonsense. So-called leftists are making 10,000 a month on Patreon, saying, "Oh yeah, wave the fucking fascist American flag and class, wearing fucking leotards, fucking being fucking abusive ass motherfuckers all over the place, doing nothing." Right? And then you have Danny, and you have like fucking, you have Rania Khalek over there in Lebanon. It's not even in America, right? The people that are doing the work are not in. Most of them they're not in the United States, and you know I don't know how to fucking deal with this problem. All I know is white people in the world have to figure out how to get to that level somehow of radical solidarity. I hope it doesn't take you all fucking freezing and starving to death and Nazis killing half of Europe and America. That is horrific. I don't want to think about that too much. I hope it doesn't take that. That's why I'm trying to really hard to stop horrific suffering, death, freezing, dying from lack of healthcare, freezing in the dark in Europe because you don't have electricity or magnesium. You know, I talk about this all the time because I want you to really think about that, what it means when you start to get to deep material losses, when the central bank reserve currencies that are fiat printed by Europe, United States, and Japan explode, and the price of inflation, the price of your rice goes to, and your bread and your gas and your cars goes to $10, $20, $30 a gallon. Okay? Think about that. Think about how fucked up it's gonna get for you. Think about all of you. I can't organize. Think about how your racist uncles, when they don't have any fucking food, because you're not even there yet. They're worrying about it. Imagine when you get there, and then all your hungry, majority racist, gun-toting idiot relatives, right? And then understand. And then I'm not in that neighborhood. You know, I'm too busy building the Belt and the Road that's coming through the actual socialist way. Think about all your Canadian. All the white people in your neighborhood, that's the majority of people in Canada, United States, and all of Europe, and the settler colonies, right? Think about how it's going to get that bad. It's going to get a lot worse for you, because the global south is not going to give you any resources. They're not going to give you up your fucking resources so that you can keep on oppressing us, right? And also, your own country is eating you, just like the corporate and the rich, up to 1% in Germany were harming the Germans, to be clear. And then the middle white classes of Germany also fighting the 1% of Germany said, well, you know what, it's really Jews, and then really harmed all of Germany and really harmed all of Europe. That's what happened last time. Shit got really hard in the Western world. So if you know, as hard as it is to have these really hard conversations with your white mom, your white dad, your white friend, your white Discord organizer, your white neighborhoods, right? As hard as it is to have radical anti-racist, anti-capitalist, and anti-imperialist, anti-misogyny, total radical solidarity, actually, right? Not just animals and white people for the white vegans, but animals, plants, indigenous people, black people, global south, global east, right? Right? Not just white working class, and fuck the teachers and the doctor, fuck the teachers and the academics, fuck the nurses and women coded jobs, right? Right? As hard as it is to have that total radical solidarity, consider how bad it's going to get this bad. It's going to get this bad. You're going to keep getting fucked, and then the right brown-red alliance, the brown shirts, the right-wing racists, and the red alliance, and the Nazis are going to keep building their power. They're not going to stop building their power in your racist countries that don't have a left. The answer is not, oh, it's so hard, I'm not going to try. The answer is, you got to get more radical and have those fucking hard conversations, and while you have access to a Discord and you're not in the dark, get in that motherfucking Discord and fucking force everyone to actually have these hard conversations about, we need to listen to actual Chinese voices on China. We need to actually listen to fucking the black voices on what's happening. We need to confront all of the racists in our community before they fucking confront us, just like they did in Nazi Germany. And what they're trying to, just to be clear, Trump is not gone. Trump beats Biden for 2024. Trump is a 45 to 42% win. Trump doesn't have to win. It could be Mike Pence. It could be somebody much worse than Trump. Somebody like Trump is going to win 2024 or worse, probably worse than him. So you need to have those conversations. You need to get into your networks, your YouTube channel, whatever it is, and get real and get clean with the world for yourself. It's not going to get better for you. It's going to get a lot worse. It's going to get a lot worse. You're not going to muddle through this. Biden is not going to build back better. The Democrats are not. You're not going to go back to some kind of centrist third way in the 1990s or the 90s. It's going to get a lot worse. And then the guns are going to come out. And the guns are not going to be on the side of the left. The guns are going to be on the side of kill all the non-white people. And kill all the gay and the women. And just like you always do. This is what you do. This will be the third time you've done this. You did this to the Chinese in the 1800s. Mass lynchings, mass murder, mass lynchings of black people. You did this to the Jewish people in Germany. You did this around the world. You're going to do it again. So fucking get right sooner than later. Anyways, I know that was a hard one to hear, but I mean, you have to hear that because That's the sad part. But you have to hear that because I want you to fucking do something for yourself. I'm not worried about Cuba. I think Cuba's gonna be okay. This short of nuclear war, Cuba's gonna be okay because you can't fucking fly your nukes anymore. I'm more worried about you getting shot by non-nuclear AR-15s and Kenosha shooters that you are enabling in your left. But a little more history. World's first universal healthcare system was in Hawaii, but nobody cares to mention that in the West. It's okay. Electricity before the White House. I mean, it's not okay. This should be mentioned. This should be, hey, you know, maybe we should follow those people that America called the N-words of the Pacific, including the presidents of the United States of America. I thought racism died after Abraham Lincoln. Oh, did it not? No. The N-words of the Pacific had the actual socialism, and then the West destroyed it, right? And I brought up Libya because this is what happened. World's first universal healthcare system, 1860s. Electricity before the White House. World's highest literacy rate, greater than 90%. Because Europeans only educated the 1% aristocrats, lords, ladies, and descendants of their feudal castles. That's how you know you're actually getting towards socialism. And they still don't educate the masses, right? They still don't educate. They barely educate the white masses, right? Like I've already brought up how many times, right? 54% of America can't even read at a junior high level, and numeracy is falling through the floor, right? But Europe also, most of Europe don't have actual history because they don't want to address their racism. Really, not really. They want to say Nazis did it, and we're not doing any racism now. So you know, we had the world's highest literacy rate and also the world's highest education rate. And the West will never have an education system. I want you to prove me. I say that the West has no education system. I'm being hyperbolic about that. There are universities and schools, but most of what they do is diseducation. I want you to prove me wrong, but I'm not gonna say that until I see it. Public mass transit system with rail, trolleys, ferries. Right? People talk, we need mass transit to deal with climate change and have efficiency. We already had that, and America bombed it into the Stone Age. Economically and racistly. It actually incinerated us into the Stone Age. Mass burnt us on the back of Asians and Pacific Islanders are full of plague, and they're the sick men of Asia Pacific, and then they incinerated us in our houses and businesses in Chinatown circa 1900. So they didn't really bomb us in the Stone Age. They more like controlled, burned us into, well, death. And citizenship for blacks, Asians had U.S. slaves, Canada segregated. You know, Sun Yat-sen, I already said all this. So, Hui system, worker co-ops, which avoided Western capitalist maximum. Worker co-ops are great, you know, and I'm glad that Richard Wolff and everybody's following the, you know, multi-thousand-year-old ideas like the Hui system, which is Hui is a multi-thousand-year-old word from Hawaii, China, Vietnam, and indigenous Aotearoan or indigenous New Zealand culture, right? I'm glad that the West, 2,000 years later, is figuring out what a worker cooperative is, right? That's really awesome. I'm glad that better late than never, you know? Insufficient to say we need worker co-ops, deal with capitalism, and ignore the history of the United States, what the American flag represents, everything I've said. So I'm not saying worker co-ops are bad. I'm saying yes and. You know, like comedy? Yes and. Yes, worker co-ops good, and stop being a racist fucking white vegan in your co-op, punching down on indigenous people. Yes, worker co-ops are good, and stop being a sexist, anti-teacher, anti-nurse person, because fucking nursing work is work. And teaching work is work, and yeah, you know. So yeah, yes, worker co-ops are good, and you're not in one because you have a reactionary shadow leader that's actually taking the majority of the wealth. People aren't showing up to the meetings once a week, and they're not really. Nobody's actually doing a lot of work, and then the thing falls apart, like all your communes and the fucking future hippie bohemian little kibbutzes and intentional communities that don't work out because too much undealt with racist capitalism and sexism inside of your heart. Right? So yes, worker co-op's good, and everything else you got to do too, right? Very important, because I'll talk about co-ops and some people are like, oh yeah, Silver Spook, those worker co-ops sound really good, and I'm like, and also you have to like have worker co-ops and also be in radical solidarity with all of your indigenous people, and also China is much better at actual socialism. Oh, I disagree with a lot of that. I'm gonna take the worker co-op thing and try to do that and fail, because I didn't listen to the rest of it. Silver Spook, I like this indigenous stuff. It makes me feel heartwarming to listen to indigenous. Oh, I don't really like the China. I don't want to talk about China though. Okay, well go fail. Some more. So anyways, you know, But my point is, when there is actual successful socialism, usually in the global south, right? For reasons that I'm talking about, right? What is done to Libya is what it was done to Hawaii, right? And that's why I made this. You know, actually, Danny Haifang made that first one, and then I made this one. You know, it's actual success, and then the U.S. fucking coup us back into the Stone Age, right? And actual success, coup and incinerate us back into the Stone Age, and then over here and ban our language and culture, and over here he's bombing U.S. and the France and the U.S. military coalition bombed them to the Stone Age. Democrats, Democrat-led Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton literally said they actually didn't have a justification for war because the country, the economy was made to scream by U.S. hybrid warfare, hybrid sanctions, embargoes. If I was working in Goldman Sachs in New York City with my programming degree, I would be in a high frequency trading algorithm high frequency trading algorithm programmer working for Goldman Sachs or a private equity firm like BlackRock, Blackstone, jacking up the price of rice and wheat and basic food products and medicine, using weapons of mass financial destruction against Libya. Rigging the commodities exchange markets to bid up the prices of rice. Like they do this all the time. Rigging LIBOR, all this. It's a long story. And then even with all of their financial weapons, their financial warfare based out of Wall Street against Libya, they made the economy scream. They do this all the time. South Central America. Libya still undid that, and they got the unrest and the problems were quelled in the community. And Hillary said, well, let's bomb them anyway. And Macron's France said, oh, yeah, sounds good. I want to keep pillaging Africa because France is not a socialist country. France is a racist, capitalist, colonialist shithole. And 90% of Niger still has no electricity, and 100% of France does. When France has 90% no electricity, right, and France is as poor as Niger, let's talk. But until then, France is total capitalist as fuck and racist as fuck. I like Richard Wolff talks about France in such a high manner, but Richard Wolff is going to back National Socialism in France and in the United States. He's being used actually as by the kind of stealth Nazi patriot left right now. So you better watch out. He talks probably about Europe because he's European. He has a European family there. But the thing is, yes, they're doing better in certain areas, but again, it's not. I don't think Richard Wolff is saying anything wrong. He's just going, oh, co-op's good, but failing to interrogate everything else. Or no, I don't think he fails to interrogate. He just isn't looking at them because he doesn't specialize in that area, right? But that's one thing I would say, because I know he likes to put them up on a pedestal. But no, France is a failure, and they're fucking all racist clowns. Students would be paid average salary for... Macron is horrible, but not just Macron, the average person in France. Students would be paid the average salary for a profession that they are studying for. All this kind of... And Libya suffered because France uses the resources of Libya. The fossil fuel that France has comes from Libya. Niger, Senegal. Senegal pays colonial tax to France. There are actual anti-imperialist tendencies in the Yellow Vest, which was good, right? And then they haven't, and I hope that one day they could actually succeed in actual global radical solidarity, right? But they don't have it yet. They don't have it. Marine Le Pen almost won, to be clear. And France isn't doing anything. They're all killing themselves with COVID and still trying to sell. France is too busy trying to sell fucking nuclear subs to America. So that's, as far as I'm concerned, that's abject failure. Crying about how much nuclear subs it didn't sell to the U.S. military. That's total failure. That's not socialism. I kind of went way off topic. So, but the important thing about the threats, coming back to this threat, I gotta get off because I gotta do a stream with our indigenous relatives soon. The important thing about the threats is that when you have a Thanos, when you have a Galactus, when you have a big evil thing like China is taking that place, it allows you, right? The reason why galactic Earth and science fictional and entertainment threats and Earth threats together are why the West can't have nice things, right? Is because they allow you to continue to project your own wrongs outside of yourself, right? As a person, right? As a country, as a historical series of peoples and cultures from Europe, right? That's all of the Western world, right? Europe and its settler colonies and its history. It allows you to project outwards the things that the trauma, the harm, the damage. You talk about, I did the stream on civilizational healing. They allow you to project outwards and not deal with your problems and your wrongs inside, as long as you continue to maintain those false inflated threats. They also damage the people that you're threat inflating, because they all end up, innocent people get killed and murdered, right, and colonized. That's why $450 trillion and billions of people have suffered, been enslaved, genocided, and warred, etc. for the last 300 years, right? So it does, to be clear, it's not the person that's harmed the most often is not the colonizer, the Avenger, the person that's going out to stop it, right? It's actually the people abroad that have been the most harmed. But in the time in which the people who have been falsely threat inflated, right? The savage, the uncivilized, the indigenous barbarian, right? The dark black African King Kong, right? The evil Vladimir Harkonnen Asian communist, right? The evil, the space Asian communist, right? That's Thanos, who wants to have a one-child policy, but very rapidly. It's called, you're all gonna have, instead of like cutting the population in half with a one-child policy, so a couple of two people replicate, and they're male and female, or X and Y chromosomes come together to make one future person. Instead of like having the population over the course of a generation, I'm gonna have it in a second with cosmic, superpowered, beyonder manufactured infinity stones, right? That Thanos is space communism. I mean, it makes sense, because all of Marvel is made in America. It's made by wrong-thinking people, including Stan Lee. This guy is a wrong person. Makes a bunch of bullshit. I'm sorry, that I have to say that, but it's not because it's not because Karl Marx was wrong about dialectical materialism. That's fine and right, insufficient. It's not because Wolverine isn't a good character to show about problems of the military-industrial complex. But what's wrong is having American heroes save anything, because and then putting demons out there, right? Captain America should be the #1 villain in the Marvel universe, not Captain America, right? I mean, Captain America, the #1 villain should be Captain America, not the #1 savior, right? As long as the Marvel universe doesn't have Captain America as the #1 villain, and Captain UK, and Captain Canada, and Captain EU, and Captain Australia, and Captain New Zealand, and Captain still working with America, Japan as the villains, all of the comic books in the Marvel universe will continue to do damage. It's not because Stan Lee is evil. It's just because he's just an American. Just like, it's not because Karl Marx is evil. Karl Marx is just a European, right? And thinks, believes, and is diseducated and does wrong things. Like, say, Chinese are hereditarily stupid. That's what he said. And it's their fault that they have to be roused from their drunken They have to be roused from their drunken stupor and their hereditary stupidity by the British and the French, which is super racist and disgusting, and less wrong than his boss Horace Greeley, but still wrong, right? And as long as you keep telling yourself these wrong stories and making these wrong movies, like Marvel movies and Star Wars, that don't come clean on, Star Wars has to have an America. The closest, as I say, is Riddick. Right? So I say it's got to be Vin Diesel. This is. I bring that up at the end because this is the evidence that you are failing and you're gonna keep failing. Which is that thank fucking God that Fast and Furious is still this is my game. I'm gonna play. How many people can I get to rage quit my stream? I'm gonna bring up Fast and Furious. World box office is still leading. Right, that's the one. But to be clear, Vin Diesel is a non-white person that doesn't even live in the United States anymore. Battle of Lake Changjin is a Chinese movie about the violence of the West against Asia in the Korean War, and China rightfully supported the U.S. imperial occupier, right? So that's the highest grossing movie this year. And then it's Hi Mom. So again, your capacity to tell stories about how you are the greatest saviors and threat inflating is failing worldwide. It's important that worldwide box office, because most of the world is not in the United States, right? It's important what America thinks about itself, but more importantly is what the world thinks. And the world doesn't think what you want it to anymore, because your global planetary soft power hegemony is dying, because you can't make good movies, and also COVID-19, and you just suck also. And your movies are always terrible, but, you know, entertaining, but they're always terrible. And they deserve to never make any money, because they're never honest. Fast 9 is the highest grossing movie made, primarily in the English language. I don't want to say it's an American movie. You know, it's filmed with an American studio, yes. But Vin Diesel is very anti the United States. You know, he doesn't. That's why he disagrees with The Rock on supporting. You know, again, it's one of almost nobody, right? And he doesn't live in the U.S. He moved to Brazil. He works internationally. John Oliver is a British European clown that's over there making fun of John Cena for speaking Chinese recently, and John Cena apologized because he said, "I'm sorry that I said that John Cena came out and did like a press tour when he said, "Thank you so much. I'm so happy that the Taiwanese country, the country of Taiwan, will be some of the first people to see the Fast 9 movie." And then he came out and said, "I'm sorry to the Taiwanese people, because Taiwan is not a country. Taiwan is a part of China." And he apologized to China. He said, "I'm so sorry." And he said it, and he did it in Mandarin. So it's like, John Cena speaking Mandarin, right? So John Cena said that, and the British person in America making so-called comedy shows, John Oliver's over there, attacking John Cena, saying it's so weird that John Cena speaks Mandarin. John Cena is apologizing to the country of Taiwan when it's not a country. John Cena is siding with China. This is so weird. And, there's no comedians in Europe either. And, again, it's not very funny, because, I mean, like, what are you saying? Why not? Of course he's apologizing to China. He wants to make money in the greatest actual market that the world has today. Why didn't Black Widow's Marvel producers, why didn't Scarlett Johansson, why didn't, Captain America, why didn't Falcon Winter Soldier apologize to China and say, "We're so sorry that we made the Korean war look like it just hurt our veterans, and we weren't honest about, how many Asians died"? Why didn't America apologize to China for a lot of anti-communist undertones of fucking Black Widow? Maybe you would have made more money. But the reality is, because what I always bring up. But the news is, you can't tell stories about yourself anymore that make you seem like the good guy to the rest of the world, because the rest of the world are not they're not here for that anymore. They're too out from under your foot. They have too much what the Hawaiians had, right? The actual world's class education system. Too much of the world has had this, and they have a generation of Chinese that are too fucking smart. Not the Chinese weren't smart before, but they have education and economic and technological and international communications power that supersedes anything that you could imagine now. And they're not going to put up with this bullshit anymore, They're not going to put up with your racist, imperialist, nonsensical, anti-Asian, anti-communist threat inflations, They're not going to watch your shitty movies anymore, They're going to be like, "No, I'm going to watch movies about international family. I'm going to watch movies about, non-white people from all around the world, right? Fighting, I'm trying to get this picture. Fighting who? Spoiled, rich, all-white pricks. American prick, that's played by South African Charlize Theron, and rich European pricks, played by the Mr. Otto, right? An inheritor of feudal and capitalist wealth, somewhere in Europe, spending money on the police and military to try to blow up non-white Vin Diesel and all of his mostly non-white friends in a global international solidarity. That is, and Vin doesn't live in the United States, and thanked publicly China. See, that's what it is. That's what, if all of Americans could follow Vin Diesel's fucking lead and be like, yes, follow Vin Diesel and John Cena's lead and be like, apologize to China for all the things that you say that are wrong, because you're saying wrong things, right? Thank China. Say thank you, China, for making all of our products and stopping COVID-19 globally from becoming 10 times worse than it could have been. Say thank you, fucking China, right? Say thank you, right? Be in, like, international solidarity. In international, not sexist, not racist, not capitalist, anti-imperialist solidarity. If everybody could follow that lead, you'd be in a much better place. You'd be in a much better place. You know, I wouldn't have to be having these streams trying to help people. You know, I would still have the streams, but I wouldn't feel like I have to say all these things because I'm like worried that, again, all this stuff I'm saying, I'm not saying it for myself. Hawaii, this island, well, Hawaii is gonna keep being impacted, but this where we are, we're doing a lot better, and you know, the Belt and Road is coming through here soon. The Jones Act is not gonna survive. America's not gonna survive, and Hawaii, well, like Cuba and the rest of the global South, will be working with China as a sovereign country that we already are when the U.S. empire falls apart. You are in a worse position, surrounded by all your racist white people in the United States that has worse quality of life than a lot of people in Vietnam and in China, you know? So again, if America were to follow, you know, this example, you would be and not make these shitty threat inflating movies, right? That's very important. It's very important. It's very important that if the threat is internal to the United States and Europe, it's not coming from outside, from space, right? From Vladimir, Russia, Putin coded fucking Harkonnen, right? It's not coming from out over there. The threat is not coming from, you know, the Red Skull. It's not coming from some super villain out there. It's not Galactus. It's not. It's in here. The threat is in here. Well, the threat is inside, right? The English-speaking countries. It's inside the Western countries. That's where because that's actually where it is. Right? It's just called being honest. And not only that, and the people that are actually fighting it are not, you know, they're not police. That's why Vin Diesel didn't do F2, because the police are not the good guy. U.S. police are not the good guys in Fast 1, and he quit F2 because he said, I'm not going to be in a show where Paul Walker is the good FBI, the good police. He quit. That's how you know, right? And you know, whereas when you go to you go to F4, right? Or Tokyo Drift, it's the U.S. military is not shown in a good light. They're like in there. The dad is a military member stationed in Japan, right? And he's kind of abusive. He like kind of isn't even there for his own son. He's got a prostitute with him. The U.S. military is not shown in a good light. They're kind of a asshole occupier in Japan. What would have made it better would be a F3 Tokyo Drift in Okinawa, where they're even doing even worse damage over there. But anyways, and the police are also not showing a good light. The police let off spoiled rich white pricks in the very beginning, and they go, "You see, you youngin, right? You're my favorite target because you know, you see Ken and Barbie over there. They're gonna get off scot-free, you know, with their Ken and Barbie rich white daddies. But you, I love you because I got to put you in prison, and you know, it would only be better if it was a black kid, right? Like, oh great, I can make my arrest code of throwing a bunch of black kids who don't have family and a racist, racialized, non-interrogated judicial and law enforcement structure to throw you into the meat grinder and make my cop salary, right? But anyway, but you know, that Vin like pointedly doesn't do the movies when that's gonna happen, and so you know, to give people, I mean, because I talk shit about all your movies, and I don't give a fuck. I mean, you can not like me. It's not ultimately gonna harm us here, where we, you know, we just had a member of Silver Spook who we had to kind of like deal with some health issues, and you know, not too, you know, we don't have zero problems, but you know, we're not gonna pay $70,000 for medical, and the water doesn't come out poison, and we have a place to live. We have to keep fixing it up and housing as many people as possible at the Silver Spook, but you know, you can dislike what I'm saying. That's okay. You know, that's what I do these streams. I do these streams to lose subscribers, to lose followers, and get thumbs down from white people, Americans and Europeans, and hopefully they think about it. Why half the stream unlike last week's stream, right? What triggered the Europeans to dislike it when I stopped dunking on the US and dunk on Europe instead, right? And I want you, that's fine. I don't give a fuck about how many likes my video has. What the fuck? It's not gonna. When the world is nuclear annihilated or we're dying for climate change, it doesn't fucking matter. What matters is people think about why they did that, and they come back. You don't have to come back. Go somewhere else. Listen to somebody that's more educated on me on a lot of things, like Carl Zhao in China, Luna Oil in Vietnam. I'm not doing these streams so I can make any money from this fucking stream. But importantly. So I gotta get off. It's 106. Okay, so, what I wanted to say was watch Fast and the Furious instead. Watch all of the Vin Diesel. Watch Riddick. Okay, you know, I'll end with some positive things. because that was I know that was a lot of hard ass medicine I just threw out there. So here's some less hard shit. Watch all of the Riddick franchise if you haven't yet, and help make sure that we get Riddick 4 made. And we gotta get off. Okay, so that's it. So now you can also support us, however. On Neofeud, you can buy Steam. You can get Neofeud on Steam and itch.io as always, and you can get it without. If you can leave even a very short review. If you enjoyed the game, if you didn't enjoy the game, then I'm sorry. But if you can leave in a very short review, it does help us out to increase the likelihood that the game will be discovered. It does support everything that we do here in terms of education. It does support all of our housing and feeding and clothing as many people. Again, we will house anybody, right? White, internally uninterrogated racist college professors that call themselves Marxists. We'll house them. We don't care, right? Because they need housing. But we're housing Native Hawaiians, Pacific Islanders, myself, Positive Synergy, Holly Argent, and kids, of course. But we'd like to expand that as much as possible and keep housing and feeding and providing all the conditions, material conditions to, and psychological and health conditions to people that they need. Not health conditions, providing all the needs all the material needs and psychological needs that people need here in the Silver Spokui. And you can leave it in a very short review that increases the likelihood that people will discover the game on the platform of Steam. You can also find the game on itch.io for Windows, Mac, and Linux. You can find it without DRM if you don't like DRM for whatever reason. You can also get Neofeud without having to use Steam if you don't want to use that. It's also on sale. And itch.io is also where you can. That's mostly everything. Anyways, this is the highest revenue split, goes to the creators. You can also support us at patreon.com/Neofeud, where we can support us in an ongoing way. Without having to, you can support us in an ongoing way, get access to the Silver Spook Discord, get access to the Neofeud 2 updates, and other things that we're currently working on. In the Silver Spook, you can also learn more about, if you become a patron, you also learn more about, more specifics about what's happening at the Silver Spokui, like what's being built, the structures and stuff, as well. You can also follow at Silver Spook Games at octodon.social, where we have decentralized, non-capitalist, federated social media platform that is also a site that is going to not be working with the U.S. military, the Pentagon, the D.C., and all of their poodles in Europe and the rest of the Canada, rest of the allied parts of the world, to stop people from finding out about indigenous people, black struggles, Black Lives Matter, which Twitter routinely does, like deletes 3,000 people's accounts for saying Breonna Taylor, removes people for talking about Ahmaud Arbery, and calls indigenous people Russia state-affiliated media, or just deletes their accounts like the Wet'suwet'en Unostoten Camp, or black, removes them from the algorithm and puts fossil fuel pipelines instead. However, while we have access to the Death Star satellites, you can also follow at Silver Spook Guy. Silver Spook Guy is my main Twitter account, where I try to say true stuff and people get pissed off. And mostly non-white people from the global south follow it. And I'm sad about that. But I'm going to say this stuff anyway. And because we all need to fucking start doing more of that. You can follow at Silver Spook Guy. Please follow Carl Zaw. Okay, so we're not talking about people that know more about Asian indigenous countries than I do, that are successful socialist countries. Carl Zaw is one of them. Please follow Carl, okay? And of course Luna Oi. And also you can follow Silver Spook Games, minus the E in Silver. And Silver Spook Games is the games related stuff. So if you want to learn more about Neofeud 2, when Neofeud 1 goes on sale and all that kind of stuff, how Neofeud is a Cyberpunk 2077, but with the actual class struggle, anti-establishment, anti-corporatism that's been sold off in favor of neon, etc. And all kind of fun stuff about the games that we produce here. You can also follow at Silver Spook Games. You can also follow Terminus C. At Terminus C is Terminus Cyberstar, which is a game that's about is a low-poly cyberpunk immersive sim that I'm the content director / lead writer on. That is being produced similar to Deus Ex System Shock. It's a cyberpunk RPG, and Terminus Cyberstar is also a game that is coming out sometime soon, I hope. But you can ask the folks by following at Terminus C that are working on it. The producer is Aaron Victoria, who is the lead programmer as well, and reached out to me Aaron Victoria is somebody who Aaron Victoria is somebody in the United States. Well, Aaron Victoria is also black. Not to say that guarantee is going to make you good, because some people that are doing reactionary stuff. But Aaron Victoria reached out to me because he said, Silverspook, you make the actual real games. You make the actual cyberpunk games that are like actually, like hitting it hard. I want to make a game with you. So that's why Terminus Cyberstars me. I said, well, you want to do that? Okay, I'll write the world and the main plot and the game design for it, and you go make it, because I can't do a game like this size. So that's basically what Terminus Cyberstar is. So if you want more of this kind of stuff that I do, but in a cyberpunk 3D RPG, this is the game that is going to be coming out. Terminus Machina is the prequel to it, already out there, and it's a free mod for Deus Ex. Follow that. And finally, thanks a lot to all these people for this continued support. Again, I know I went pretty hard on this stream, but everything that I'm not saying this stuff just because I want to win an argument. I don't care about winning an argument. I don't say this stuff because I want to hurt people's feelings. It will hurt when these things are said. I know this hurts, because it hurt me the first time I heard these things. I used to think all kind of wrong stuff, like I said. My goal isn't to... I'm getting upset because these things deeply impact me, and it's incredibly frustrating when I see wrong things being said. But I'm not saying these things to harm anybody, to harm people. I want everybody to be as minimally harmed as possible. I know all these people, at least on some level, understand what I'm saying, that they wouldn't be supporting me. Right? And I know a lot of people are of low middle income, so I'm not saying that, but that this is not the majority of people in the Western world. I want the majority of people to be on these people's level, or more so. And I want to come on one of these streams one day and be like, I am not worried about all of my comrades and friends and family in the US and Canada and Europe and everywhere else like that. But I can't do that because that would be lying. So thanks to all these patrons that continue to support us. However, in doing this indigenous left education, making the games, and supporting all the housing and feeding and clothing that we try to do to our best of our ability here at the Silver Spook Hui. Anyways, I'll be back very soon. I gotta get up. I'll be back at 2 o'clock on Twitch to talk to our indigenous friends about indigenous and decolonized futures. Until next time, keep your marriage shades polished. Be excellent to each other. Go watch whatever movies you want to watch, and just remember, right? The interrogation and the real work is internal right now in the Western world.